Alrighty, guys, welcome back to another episode of the League of Inches podcast, the 2025 season review, part 1. We are going to be releasing ours in 2 parts. This episode is the bottom 9. Firstly, we are at our major sponsor, the Caxton Street Brewery, located here on Caxton Street in Brisbane. Fantastic location. You may have spotted a few times. We came and watched Origin here. And plenty more to come from this very spot over the next few months as well, which we're very excited about. Got myself, host. I've got Trav. You obviously know Trav, basically my co-host now. So, you know Trav now. And I've got Linc from the United. That is what I basically used to call him. I now call him, thanks to Vossi and Brandy, Idiot. Hello, Idiot. How's things?
Mate, it's good to get out of my mum's basement and into another one.
The dungeon. The mum's dungeon.
Dungeon, sorry. Dungeon, yes. Appreciate being back here with you boys. I didn't have the best of memories last time I was in here. I know you did, Trav. But yeah, always a pleasure, boys. Thanks for having me on.
And
to remind you, that was Origin when Queensland won, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's been a year.
Good memory.
It's been a terrible year of football for me, but yeah.
When I do this, Rob, just a heads up, when I do that, just mute his mic. Thank you. And a shout out to Rob, the producer for the show. We've put out the big guns for these episodes. I wanted to give you the best of the best. So make sure from the very start you hit that like, subscribe button, follow League of Inches, obviously, and give Linc, or aka the Idiot, a follow along here on his podcast and page as well. Thank you very much. Let's get straight into it, boys, because there is so much to talk about. Let's start from the very bottom. I'm very, very sorry to mention this, Linc. It is the Newcastle Knights. So the Newcastle Knights finished 17th. Their points for was 338, which was a ranking of last in the competition, average of 14 points per game. Points against 638, which was a ranking of 15th. That actually was a lot better throughout the years. Really, that back six or seven games that really just skyrocketed, and an average of about 26.5 points a game. Top try scorer Fletcher Sharp with 11 tries. Players that played all their games this year, which was 24, Gagai, Brayley and Croker. Their biggest win was round 9 against the Bunnies, 30 points to 4 at Suncorp Stadium. So Magic Round, we're all there to watch that one actually. The biggest loss was round 27, sorry to bring it back up to you, Linc, against the Eels, Combank Stadium, 66 points to 10, an absolute shellacking. Their best win streak, they're only able to put 2 wins together, and that was right at the start of the year to give your fans plenty of false hope, unfortunately, rounds 1 to 2. And then the worst losing streak, 9, which was right at the back of the year. So round 17 to round 27, they are still on that losing streak. It's only fair, I feel like, we go straight to you around this season that has been basically hell, it's fair to say. How's things now? A few weeks later.
Yeah, I was feeling a bit better, but yeah, reading out what you've just read out, mate, it's just brought back all those horrible memories.
I apologise.
Hear what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I'm strapping myself in. Yeah, geez, it is, I don't know how you cut and paste this one, but it was an absolute season to forget. It was, as you said, false promise to start the year. Round 1, round 2, albeit we're a little bit clunky. Got the job done against the West Tigers and then the Dolphins at home.
Top 4, flying.
Yeah, and the back end of the season, boy, oh boy. I know, the Knights struggled in attack all year, but it was one thing in 2025, which was something there wasn't many things we could hang our hat on. The one thing that we kind of did have was Brian McDermott's defense, and the fact that we weren't scoring points, but we were somehow, I think, 3rd, 4th, 5th best in the league for a big portion of the period. With the fact that our offense wasn't sort of helping our defense at all, was something we could at least look at, But then, as you got here, from round 17 to round 27, I got the calculator out. We, on average, conceded 43 points and only scored 12. Like, we just fell off a cliff. That unfortunate Warriors game, that one that was it. Like that Halasima try just took the air out of our tires, and Adam O'Brien just didn't have any answers. It was just, couldn't motivate the playing group anymore, and it was just a slippery slope, and couldn't wait for the season to end, mate.
There's plenty to talk about. Adam O'Brien is hot on this agenda. We will get to him, but Trav, you did mention it, and unfortunately, it is the case. There really isn't much positive to talk about when we talk about the Knights season, unfortunately for Knights fans. What have you been looking at so far?
There's not much positive. Like, statistically, there's nothing really positive to talk about. There's a couple of positives in terms of some plays they've unearthed and that I like in terms of Thomas Cant and the likes, but statistically, it's bad. And like, you want to talk about the last few games, but across the board, and I think, Joel, you did a post around mid-season-ish around what they were scoring offensively and what they were doing. But those first two games, that false sense of hope, then you went 4-17. So 4 wins, 17 losses. And then those last 4 games, without sort of harping onto it, to lose 26-6, 20-0, 24, 34-14. And then the Parra game. It's not good. And then you've got the point, what you failed to tell everybody, Joel, was that they scored 338 points for 638 points again. They had a minus 300 point differential. That's abysmal. That's abysmal. And irrelevant of how bad your last part of the run is, to have that differential is the reason why you're on the bottom of the ladder. But statistically, like, it's the worst attack since 1999.
I want to go at this in one way, because there's obviously a lot of Knights fans will be screaming at their car already saying, yeah, but we had some injuries this year. And that is completely fair enough. There was some injuries to your big star players, probably your big 3 at the moment, which is Ponga, Lucas, and Sharp. Ponga and Lucas only played 13 out of a possible 24 games. Sharp only played 1 extra game, 14 games. That's fair enough. But what I would then go back and I continue to think about whenever we talk about the Knights, and you'll know this more than anyone, we always remember and know the Knights for just putting in effort no matter what. You throw anything you want at that club or that team on the park, you know, one thing you're guaranteed of is that 100% effort and commitment every week. And it's probably the most disappointing part of this whole season from an outsider's point of view. I'd hate to see how you feel about it all, but it just felt like, especially towards the end of the year, and you're right about that Halasima try probably was the final dagger in that side, but it really did feel like that was it. And we started to see performances where that 100% was down to like 60 for some of the games, it felt like.
Oh, mate, it wasn't. I said it on my show. Like, the Knights weren't beaten in games. Like, we surrendered games. Like, there was just no ifs or buts about it. Like, the team, there was just nothing left. And, you know, Adam O'Brien's no surprise now, looking back. Clearly, you just didn't have the answers. You know, looking at the playing group, there was just nothing. We had Old Boys Day. You know, the Knights do it better than anyone. Last home game of the year, we just get absolutely blown off the park again. There was just nothing. It just seemed to be going from bad to worse. There was no uptick at all, which was super disappointing. I know you shouldn't lump all the players. You know, there are a handful of players that, no matter what, a guy I'm sure we're going to be talking about, in particular, putting their hands up. But, you know, when you see some of the older players, you know, they should be leading by example far better. And I know you said it, Trav, we did have some little shining lights. And one thing that the Knights have had well over the past few seasons is the young debutants coming in. When we do have debutants, they're generally pretty impactful. You know, certainly not complete football players, but positively influencing the game. Certainly not polished products, but at least something to be excited about. But going on the attack, you're right. There are mitigating circumstances. I hate using the word excuses, but, you know, yes, Ponga, Sharp, Dill Lucas, our 3 most dangerous attacking players. The spearhead of our attack, out for long periods. You know, 2 Liz Franks and a ruptured spleen, like just freakish injuries. Look, I'm sure had those guys maybe collectively have played 3 or 4 more extra games, we probably somehow, some way, maybe pick up 1 or 2 games and maybe narrowly avoid the spoon. It was just for a club that, you know, it's been a bit of a joke the last 2 years with the chopping and changing of halves, sprinkled on top of that with the 3 best attacking players off the field, and then a forward pack which does have some holes in it. It was just, wasn't good.
They were losing games with those guys playing still. Like, they won the first 2, and then they went 4-17. So they were still losing games. When you say that Sharp played 14 games, by the way, he's a freak. Ponga played 13 and Lucas played 13. So that means that they played a fair chunk of games together. They were still losing games together. So, like, even talking about injuries to only then win 6 games whilst they were, that is an excuse in my opinion. And there are teams like the Rabbitohs who have got a history-breaking amount of injuries and played a hell of a lot better than what Newcastle did. So, like, I think that's an excuse, to be honest. And I'm not being rude here.
No.
And this happens. This is sport. This is what happens. To go through and do that. Like, I mean, let's be honest. At one point, I thought one of the better decisions that O'Brien did was putting Gagai to fullback. And then they stripped him of it and put Vitano in. And that was just, I think, monumentally bad for him. The confidence that he's got. Because there's a big rap and big future for that fellow. And he's gone and got belted for a couple of games. Like, that's just, to me, that sums up the Newcastle Knights in 2025.
Well, that decision itself sums up, I feel like, the main guy to talk about here at the moment is Adam O'Brien, who has now left the room, so to speak. And there was just so many puzzling decisions and selections and unneeded changes that he'd constantly do on almost a week-to-week basis that just left a sour taste, I'm sure, in everyone. And it got to the point where I'd argue he hasn't just lost the dressing sheds, but he lost the Newcastle community, which is just a cardinal sin in my opinion. You can't go out and and I think it was round 15 or something when he came out and said what he said about, and I've got the quote here. I know the scoreline is not what they want, but to boo the effort, they went into that first half from a really young team. The people that booed don't know anything about rugby league. Now, to come out and say that about the Newcastle Knights fans, the ones that show up no matter what, absolute rocks in his head. And I can't believe when that happened. That was literally from that was the writing on the wall. He was done. I know he looked completely wrecked, exhausted, blah, blah, blah. But as a coach and just as someone in the game, I reckon all of us here, everyone else listening and things like that would know, one of the things you just don't do, you don't go at the Newcastle fans because you got nothing to back yourself up for, really.
Yeah, no, you're right. And it was after our round 10.
And they won the game.
Only one of two home wins. It was a sensational win. And unfortunately, took the gloss off of it.
Yeah.
The talking point wasn't the huge Fletcher Hunt back try to Kalen Ponga to seal victory in the dying minutes of the game. It was Adam O'Brien slagging off supporters. And let's be honest, we played horrible in the first half. They got booed. They turned around.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even make sense in that point. It's not like we played worse and he's blaming the supporters. It's like, well, it ultimately was a positive, and they have every right. We played bloody poor. There wasn't much for Knights supporters, particularly home, home and away, but a cardinal sin to be performing that poorly at home. But you're right. Selections, a lot of the team lists that were dropped, absolute head scratches. I think a lot of listeners are probably going right now is like Jackson Hastings. Why, oh why, that bloke has been omitted so many times from this football team. It's astounding.
Can I ask? I got to ask you this, Linc. The Knighted. I'm going to call you the Knighted through this. I got to ask you this, the Knighted. In the last 2 to 3 years, who, in your opinion, doesn't matter, irrelevant of how many games they've played, is the best halfback on the list
in our roster?
Yeah.
Oh, Jackson Hastings.
Yet he doesn't play.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's always been this thing about, he's too slow. Well, Jackson Hastings has never built his game on speed. He's not a Mitchy Moses type player. The 10-game win streak we won on, he was an integral part of that in 2023. And yeah, right from, this problem was created back in 2024, last season. And I think it was after 2 weeks. It was all this chopping and changing. And I think we might have got a bit of fool's gold with Jack Cogger's grand final performance. It'll be interesting to see sort of how he goes back, whether, he can sort of reinvigorate a little bit of form that he had before he came back to the Knights. But getting back to sort of what you said, Trav, earlier too, is the one thing that really hampered the Knights is not only did we have a personnel problem with our strike weapons out, and I agree with you, even though they were playing, it was very clunky, it didn't look convincing, it was just the conservative, boring playbook we had. Yeah. It was so evident, and I don't know whether it's, Adam O'Brien spent over a decade in Melbourne, and I don't know whether he's trying to coach a team that he wants and not has, because there were periods of time, and that Manly game was a really, really good example. It was one of the only few games where we had both Fletcher and Ponga playing either side of the field and just had Manly stretched out. 'Cause you got these just absolute running threats either side of the field, and it looked exciting. Fletcher Hunt contesting kicks. That's how we won the game. It's the butt of all jokes. Why the Knights do not contest the high ball blows our mind. We bloody pull our hair out. I'm surprised I still got bloody hair.
There's a lot of it.
Yeah. But there was a lot more, mate, at the start of the season. I can tell you that much. But yeah, it was just a culmination. It just really felt like in 2025, apart from a couple of little shining lights from some of these debutant players, just nothing went right. Like, just nothing went our way.
I feel like it comes back to a lot of those coaching decisions because you're right, Trav. Like, when we sit there and I sat there and I look at the season and I'll unpack it at the moment, when you lose Kalen Ponga and Lucas on the same weekend, I think to myself, okay, this probably then goes to Fletcher Sharp, which huge impact for him and a huge role for him to put on his shoulders, be freshly learning that position in first grade. So massive. I can wear it though, but then you lose him the week after. So for mine, I'm sitting there going, this screams for your most experienced playmaker needs to be on that field as much as possible, which is Jackson Hastings. And we even like people like Joey that were screaming for it. They were saying he needs to be on this in this side no matter what. But it just continually never happened. So that for mine suggests that's really poor coaching. Because whether that's a personal thing that's happening between either him and Jackson or if it's Jackson and the playing group, you just sit everyone down. You go, you know what? For the betterment of our season, because the way we're basically looking, we're about to finish with the wooden spoon, which ended up happening. Put your shit to the side.
Yeah.
Whatever it is going on, what we're doing here is playing for the people of Newcastle, and that means my halfback is Jackson Hastings. Whoever's not happy with that, go and play reserve grade. Whoever's happy with that, you can come and play first grade because that needed to be a line in the sand that just felt like it just carried on for way too long.
Question: did Adam O'Brien have pretty much control of everything? Was he also? Was there a team selection committee or anything?
It was him, brother.
It was him. Yeah. So that just makes it even worse, hey? Because I was about to go on the other side of it about the organisation and give that, which
as far as I'm pretty certain he had full autonomy of that.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a committee or whatever. Look, Jacko did come back and play a handful of games.
they had no one left, so he had to, and he did a bloody good job.
And we were very close. People forget that we nearly beat the minor premiers in that Raiders game. It was super unfortunate. Unfortunately, Jackson Hastings knocks the ball on halfway. And it's just really bad luck on our behalf. KP's not in the frame because he's literally just done his Liz Frank, and there's no one sort of covering out the back. Ethan Strange picks it up, bang, they go on to win it. We're looking at a point here, mid to late into the season where the potential wooden spooners are taking it on the would-be minor premiers. Yeah. There were a lot of games where Jackson was pretty handy, and for a team. I was saying this on my show, because we had so many debutants, like he being the captain of our New South Wales Cup team, not only has he played the heap of Cup, well, who better to sort of bring these guys in? He knows their game better than anyone else.
Yeah.
He sort of bridges that gap between first grade and these younger guys. Real head scratcher, mate. Even the fact, to touch on Parramatta, for what Jason Riles did for Dill Brown, giving him that last game, I thought surely we've got nothing left to really play for, and to give it to what's his name, Jake Arthur.
Oh yeah, Jake.
A guy that wasn't even going to be in the building. It's not even the argument going, well, look, we've got him next year. Let's just get as many games into him as possible. I could kind of understand that, but he was signed the hull. He was never going to be a part of the plan. So the fact that you're going to give him a run over a guy that I felt was a huge part of that. Our best season on Adam O'Brien, 23, was pretty telling. Yeah.
You mentioned it, Trav, and it's probably the last point we get to before we mention anything positive, which basically will just be our player of the year when it comes to the Knights this season. But I then think about that, like even the Jake Arthur signing mid-year when you've still got players like Hastings sitting there just playing reserve grade week to week and just there's clearly something going on there. Where does the management then come into that and say, no, we're not signing this bloke. We've got that bloke already here. That's the spot. I don't get what's going on there as the club. And I know Linc probably have more answers for us, but from outsiders looking in, there seems to be a lot of what's happened this year. And going into next year, which we talk about a bit later on, it's in the new year, but there's a lot that's not making sense. And it feels like the Knights fans, which we've said that many times so far, we absolutely love and adore, but are literally getting the piss taken out of them.
Yeah, 100%. And so is that community. I don't want to go too deep in bagging out the organisation here because I actually think they've made some really good decisions in terms of now what they're doing with their community engagement and their junior pathways and that sort of stuff. But to have a guy like Adam O'Brien have full autonomy, as you've sort of said there, and that's not quoted, we're not 100% sure on that, but we're pretty close to it, making decisions like that, surely your organisation is jumping in and saying, hang on a second here, this has to be wrong. Our best halfback that can lead this team, you're not picking. We're paying him $700K, and he's guiding our juniors around and our 2B players, and this is what you're doing. Like, yeah, sometimes an organisation really does need to step up and go in here and say, no, we need to make some changes here, and this is where you're going to start. As a coach, I don't think you should be too disappointed by that either. So, like, you've got to be held accountable too, and that's the
Coaches
and the word there is accountability.
Yeah.
Like, there hasn't been accountability. There hasn't really been accountability by the Knights, other than the fact that for the last 18 months, all the Knights have talked about is saving $2 million.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only accountability that I feel like the Knights have called out here in terms of what they've put on the field that we watch on TV. That's that word just sums up the Knights, is that there has been no accountability.
And that's the thing. It's felt like, in a way, from us looking outside the bubble, that the Knights management, it's almost been a game of time. Where we've known for that long that Adam O'Brien will be sacked at some point.
Yep.
But it was just a timing thing. And I just felt like, for a club that makes a fair bit of money, you would know that, the Leeds club and that they are, they're not struggling by any means. To be basically focused on that focal point, it just felt like it took over their season in the end. It was, okay, this is going to happen. Why not make the change mid-season and start fixing it? Because now what's going to happen is you've got a nice, exciting coach, which should suit for next year, but he's coming now. Like, Holbrook could have come in mid-season. This was already a write-off year. If he got a wooden spoon, no worries. But he could have come in like Riles has done at Parra. What Hene might not be the best because the Titans have done similar with Des, just struck him along. But we've seen in the past where if you let these coaches come in mid-year and just start to see who they want and things like that, where he can get on top of it now, where it could have been a 6-month period basically wasted. Because now what will happen is you'll have players that maybe Holbrook doesn't want or doesn't suit his style. He has to stick with now for the next year or so until he can get rid of some of these players. It just feels like, I don't know, like you mentioned, Trav, they seem to be on the better page now. And there's obviously a big name, big money signing that we'll get into and talk a lot about in our preview side of things. But do you have any quick final say about the management side of things that, from a fan's point of view, maybe we're not seeing? Or that
It's hard. Adam O'Brien's an enigma because, prior to Adam O'Brien arriving at our club, there were some bloody dark years. I know we got a wooden spoon this year, but we had back to back to back. West Tigers fans, they'll understand exactly what that feels like. But before this season, he'd only missed finals once. We had a pretty poor year in 22. We weren't spooners. But each year, other than that, we made finals. 2020 to 2021, his first 2 years, we scraped in the 8. We weren't convincing. We got bounced out pretty fast. 23 was obviously his flagship year. That's the 10-game win streak. We were,
I'm not putting that on him, but I'm putting that on one of the best 10 games.
Yeah, and in hindsight, that's probably a very valid argument.
Carried that whole team.
Yeah, going from the best attacking team to literally 24 months later, the worst.
Historically, one of the worst.
Yeah, thanks, Trav. You're right though. But I don't know. There was always this in the back of some supporters' minds is like, okay, he has made finals the past 3 years, because I don't know even if we signed Holbrook, he was well entrenched in the Roosters. I can't see the Roosters letting him bail halfway through the year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In the building with Trent Robson, like that's how we got Adam O'Brien, and that kicked up a big stink when we got Adam O'Brien. We were talking to him whilst he was at the Roosters. So yes and no.
but the point is, and I think Joel's right. Like Riles leaving the Storm was because of the role that he had at Storm. It was easier for him to get up and go. Holbrook may be harder. I get it. But at least the option there, like if you're going to call it out and say that, like at least that gives you guys as the community and in my opinion, the best community in the competition that deserve probably the most positivity that they should ever get across the entire NRL. I love the Newcastle community. But at least have that option out there so that the community sees that this is what we're doing, this is how we want to play, and even as an assistant coach or doing what his role was beforehand, he can still sit there and make decisions, and he can still sit there and ask these questions. Or it's not that far away for him to drive down there and go and do some interviews or player interviews or start to do the recruitment drive and stuff. And I get that he had 2 jobs, but like I don't see how that couldn't happen. Like to me, it was that accountability that calls needed to be made because, to be fair, they were calling for Adam O'Brien's head for most of 2023. And even when he went on that run at the end of the season, they were still calling for his bloody head. Like they were calling it all last year, and then they've called it all this year. It wasn't until the last few weeks. So it's that accountability issue that I've got that the organisation hasn't had. And I think your point is absolutely fantastic.
I've got to move us on, but finally on that, and it's a big now. I know Holbrook's come in and he's signed and he's happy to do so to come into what's happening, but he's effectively, because of the time frame, and he could have had a much bigger say in this happening, but like Dill Brown, for instance, he might not have wanted Dill Brown. He might have looked at that and thought, well, him and Fletcher Sharp are very similar players. What I actually need more so here is because you clearly don't want Hastings at the club. I need a more organising 7, so to speak. And he might have wanted to go a different way, but now what he's walked into and what he has is this $3 million almost tied down in 2 players, which one's being very heavily linked on a constant basis to be out of the club at some point, but Dill Brown will be there for 10 years. Like that's big. So, but let's stick with this year. Let's go our player of the year and our season rating. Trav, kick us off.
I've got best player. I just think hands down was Gagai. Just his heart, man. Put him in an Origin jersey. We know what Gagai does. I would have been really happy for Gagai to play Origin this year as a Queensland fan. I just love what he did. God, he just turns up and he plays, and he's so representative of what that community lives and breathes, and he's just such a godsend for you guys. Love to have him on my team. He's just that guy that I like, and I feel like he's a really good dude. He just did with the best what he had to do, and he even got put to the bloody fullback, and then got ripped from that. He wasn't doing a bad job. Actually thought he was doing a pretty bloody good job. Yeah. And then got ripped out of that and put back to the centres, which is obviously his spot. But yeah, just to be treated like that and do that, I think by far. But statistically, he was very good. I think there's a no-brainer. He's your best player.
What about your rating?
Who won your award is not in my top 5. If you want to go there. And my rating, look. To be fair, we all had them on the bottom of the ladder. I had them second last. Joel, about the only call this year you've made right in 2025 is picking the Knights on the bottom of the ladder. You got that right, so well done. We all had them there. So to be fair, we voted that's where we thought. I've given them an F, a very simple F. It's a massive fail.
Unfortunately for me, I have done the season rating as an F as well. My player of the year for this one is Dane Gagai as well. I thought he was absolutely, for what he basically was dealt throughout this whole entire season to be producing what he did, I still can't believe they changed him from fullback. I thought he's actually the real only bright spark of that side playing at the back and was some kind of glue keeping something together at the club at the time. I don't quite get moving him. I think that weakened a really key position in the modern game. But yeah, I think he was incredible this year. So Dane Gagai is my player of the year. Link, finish this up.
I've gone the same, boys. And as you said, Trav, how on earth Dane Gagai didn't win the Danny Dearest medalist?
But he wasn't even close.
Wasn't even close. I can't remember now. It was like 5 rounds out. And he wasn't even in the top 5. Like crazy.
We're seeing something else. We're idiots.
Yeah, clearly. I was live streaming that watch along of that award show, and I was absolutely dumbfounded. Jacob Saifidi picked up the award on the night, but geez, you would have put your house on it. That would have been Dangay guy. And you're right. He was the most consistent footballer. A guy that, age is just a number. Like, as you said, Trav, he would not look out of place in Origin in 2025. Like, we all know the level he goes to in Origin. Uber consistent. He did a sensational job to begin when KP was first ruled out of fullback. Why we changed that, I don't know. I know Vitano there and Fletcher Hunt. Again, we'd be sort of going on old grounds on Adam O'Brien's selections, but he was absolutely incredible. And yes, I'm going to have to go an F too. I'm going to have to go an F. On reflection, I know
You've learnt your alphabet?
Yes, I've learned my alphabet. I might have been so harsh on him before, but the more the dust has settled on this season, the more it's just come to realise it's just been not only bad circumstances, but bad decisions as well. And just the complete fall off at the end of the year. As I said, the Knights weren't losing games. Like, we were literally surrendering games. And, it's just unforgivable. No supporter, club, coach should ever accept that. And that's where we found ourselves at the end of 25. So,
well, Knights fans, get in there. Let us know in the comments, whether it's via the podcast or YouTube, even the social media points. Let us know what you think. Thank you very much. The Gold Coast Titans. So, finish 16th position. So, points for 520. That was the season ranking of 11th. Average of about 21 points a game. Points against 719, which was last in the competition. Defense was horrible, which was an average of just under 30 points a game. I'm talking 29.95. So that is absolutely abysmal. You're not winning many games with defense like that. Top try scorer, Phil Sami, 15. Players that played all 24 games, both Fermor and RCG. Biggest win was against the Knights, 26 points to 6 at Seabus, round 3. And against the Manly Seagulls in round 15, 28 points to 8. Their biggest loss was against the Cowboys in round 8, 50 points to 18, so 32 points. And round 24 against the Sharks, 54 points to 22. Their best win streak or biggest win streak was 2. And their worst losing streak was 5, which they unfortunately achieved twice. One of those years for the Gold Coast Titans. And boys, I think it's fair to start with the Des Hasler decision, his season. Basically, from the get-go, I remember saying on the podcast a number of years ago that when this appointment happened with Des Hasler, that it was either going to make or break the Titans in a way, because it was two completely different ways of playing the game coming together. And it just looked like it was going to be a car crash, and it was just about the level of damage that was going to be achieved and if it could actually be fixed. And it turned out it couldn't be fixed. It was basically a write-off for basically the seasons that Des was there. It just didn't ever seem to happen. Again, we speak about puzzling coaching decisions. He had a number of them. It just felt like one of those years for the Gold Coast Titans that really, Link, it just never, ever happened. And you just continually look at this side on paper and you think at the start of the year, Nick bites everyone every year. You start getting a bit excited. You go, there's something here for this side. Again, nothing.
Yeah, the Gold Coast Titans just, when you said like Des coming in and it just wasn't going to work, for me, I don't know what will work because I just don't understand what the Titans' identity is. Like, what is it to be a Gold Coast Titan?
Good money, play in good conditions, party.
That's about it, right?
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy,
and have a few extra free trips to Dreamworld.
Yeah. I don't know if were they just hung up on the fact that he was going to be their first ever premiership winning coach? Was it just thinking? Because let's be honest, the Gold Coast don't get many decisions right. Like for every one they get right, they feel like they get 100 wrong. Was that it? Because I don't even think Gold Coast supporters, there ain't many of them, but even there I don't think being overly ecstatic with Des. I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of is he'd won a premiership and they go, we haven't had one of those before. Let's just give him a crack.
I don't even think Des would be ecstatic with Des at this point.
No, I'll sum up your season for you by the new recruitment of the new coach that they've just hired. In his statement, he said in his press release is that I want to come in and coach and fix the lack of intent and the Jekyll and Hyde approach that this club has. That sums up the season and sums up Desi Hasler. When your new appointment is talking like that, that's unbelievable. To talk about Desi Hasler, he's not a bad coach, but to say that, but then also sum up the way the players have been playing and what their intent is, I just think that is a very, very big statement that the new coach is coming. To be fair, has not actually coached a game of NRL, as a head coach, and that's what he is saying. It's unreal.
But that's a massive talking point in itself that we will attack at some point in the near future. But when it comes to Des Hasler and it comes to what has actually unfolded this whole season for the Gold Coast Titans, it's like, and we mentioned what their identity is. I almost got to the point now with the Gold Coast Titans. It's like, you know what? Their defense has been basically dog shit now for how long? Basically their inception. They've never been known as this great defensive powerhouse. I almost, in a way, would jump on that and go, you know what? Let's just start winning games 36 points to 30.
Lean into it. I'm with you. Oh, that's why I love the idea of the Walker brothers going there. It'll give you something to get excited about and go, you know what? They might be unconventional, but at least they're exciting. They know what they are. Yeah, I'm with you, mate. It's
like things like AKP. So Cam Piera, live on the podcast, he's officially signed with the Warriors for next year. But for him, he's not the greatest defensive winger in the game. Everyone knows that. But tell me a winger that doesn't make some very poor decisions in defense. There's not many out there who are 100% clean every time they play the game. That's just what happens. But what AKP has that is different to a lot of wingers in the game, he can go out and score you basically a hat-trick with ease. Like, he's just that. So getting on top of that, it just felt like for mine, what Des Hasler's tried to do throughout this whole year, plus last year as well, but for this year, he's tried to control the Titans for mine way too much, Trav. And it's felt like they've played and haven't been able to breathe. And I know, and we'll talk about some of the plays down the track as well with this podcast, but I don't know, have I seen something that you haven't seen perhaps?
No. No, I actually looked at, I think that list is full of talent. It's a talent full of, it's a list full of talent that's a mess. The list is a mess. And we've, like, to sum it up in terms of, they had 600K. Like, we're all predicting that RCG was on 600K. What is one area of the Titans they didn't need to fill? Forward. And they go and put 600 into a middle forward. Like, to be fair, RCG coming off one of his better years in 2024, I don't mind him signing for 600K, but not at the Titans. They don't need that. So what they need is playmakers. They've unearthed an amazing playmaker in Campbell, which we all know is there, and I think he's got his spot as halfback. That's locked down. He just went and played the Prime Minister's 11 and did okay, except for that he couldn't kick. But to do that, I think he's locked down that halfback spot. He's a superstar in the making, and I can't wait to watch him play Origin, because he'll play Origin at some point, in my prediction. But yeah, like, that list is just so full of talent that is just a mess. And there's a big job that's got to be taken for the new coach to take on that.
You talk about JC, you talk about Brimson, Keeney. That's obviously heard him a lot. No Keeney this year. He's a freak and an absolute bona fide star of the future. But the other thing for like JC and Brimson, like, that goes back to what we were saying, Link, that go off. You've got attacking superstars at your disposal. Just go off it. And for mine, the forward pack's really let the Gold Coast Titans down this year because they are star-studded. That is a pack that I reckon you could pick 3 or 4 out of that side that majority of clubs would go straight away, yeah, we'll work out a way to sign him. If you've got him available, we'll bring him, no worries at all. What happened? Like,
yeah, it's funny. It's a forward pack with someone like Tino Fasualamawi in it. Yeah, shouldn't be inconsistent at all.
Yeah.
You know, he must be one of the most frustrated footballers in the comp because he is the guy you would build your identity around. You know, him and Jaden Campbell, I think, would be the cornerstones. If I'm sure Josh Hannay is probably wanting to do that. But you're right. It's a roster. they do have some handy players. Bo Famore, another guy's pretty good. This young De Groot coming through. He's an exciting young player. I know Brian Kelly can be a little bit hit and miss at times. You said Carl Pereira.
He's gone.
He's gone now, but a little bit of a glass cannon. So look, there are some pieces there. It's not a roster devoid of talent. A coach could come in there as it's not like you've got a clean house. It's not like you just blow the whole place up. There's a bit there to work with. But I don't know. He's got a big job in his hand. Josh.
I think you miss Mofo is an Origin prop. He's had probably a poor year to his standards this year, but there's another one that you can add into that list. Their spine is, on paper, if they went with the way that most of us are trying to tell them that they need to go, in terms of putting Keeney at the fullback, he's their lockdown fullback, and then going Campbell, Brimson, and Verrills is no spud at hooker. Sorry, that's a very good spine. And then off the back of probably my favourite lock in the competition this year in Tino, and it's a good list.
It's a star-studded pack. Like I said, there's so many teams that with their halves as well would just absolutely feed off that forward pack. It just makes me think, did Des overcoach this forward pack? Did he make him do things that they shouldn't have? For mine, you basically just treat this forward pack, stock standard forward pack, just do what you got to do and just be good at it. Let the rest of this exciting back line and halves do the job. Or are we getting to a point, and I don't want to say that, are we starting to really overhype this potential back line and stars that the Gold Coast Titans have? Because they've been around now for a few years and they just can't make it happen.
It's funny. You get these great teams and they struggle because it's the weight of expectation, but it's sort of polar opposite of the Gold Coast. I think it's the lack of expectation is probably the root of it. No one really expects them to do anything.
They're okay with failure, it feels like.
Well, mate, it's sporting on the Gold Coast, really. It's not just a Titans issue. There's something in the water on the Gold Coast where it's just sporting organisations. I don't know if it's just a cultural thing that no one really, whatever they're there, no one's expecting them to do well.
Yeah.
It's kind of like they need that. A lot of clubs fall over when the expectations put on them. This is a club that needs it. Because I think that, as you were saying, the Jekyll and Hyde approach is, that's why it's so hot and cold. People, whatever. No one's expecting us to win. It's not that big a deal. We're not one of the big clubs. Yeah, your Parramatta's, Broncos, Roosters, whatever. They're down the pecking order as far as sort of that's concerned. So to become a relevant club, I think it's a pretty fair assessment to say the Gold Coast have been pretty irrelevant for best part of 2 decades. They've got to get that relevancy in the building. That's got to start coming to. Josh Hannay's agenda is we're going to make this a relevant football team.
I'm going to steal something off Joel here, so I'm going to let him talk about it. But they don't have to be irrelevant. They've got an open playing field here, and they've got juniors that continue to go. And I'm stealing this from you, Joel, because you've spoken about their juniors, but they've got 6 juniors that just played Origin that have come through their juniors, and I think they've lost a whole heap of them already. But they're there, their talent's there, so there's no excuse for them for being this bad. There is none. It's they've got the talent, they've got the junior system through. I think Hannay's summed it up again as well with his appointment, is that he's gone in and said, I want to work with the player manager. I want to work with the community and the junior development. I want to be the head of that. I want to have a look at this. I want to oversee it. And I want to be the one that makes the decisions on our recruitment and how we drive that. So they shouldn't be this shit. They just shouldn't. And that community is that, so I don't know if you want to jump on that, because I know you've said that before, but it's your thing.
We all know, and I've lived in the Gold Coast now in the area for 8 years or so, and the big thing I have always really noticed is that they're not really in the area. They're not visible. They're not part of the community, it feels like. And it's easy to blame Des, and by reports, Des basically refused to do anything, which is just obnoxiously stupid in its own right, because it's 2025 rugby league. You need to be out there. You need to be getting the kids on board. You mentioned a school like Keebra Park, who is in the Gold Coast. Like, they have just got some of the best young rugby league talent in the game at their disposal, and it just feels like they don't ever do anything with it apart from lose them. It's just stupid. And it is disappointing to see because there is so much potential, I feel like, on the Gold Coast from a rugby league point of view. I think it's head and shoulders above what obviously other codes are doing around the area because of purely talent alone. But there's only going to be so long that talent will stay around and go, we're not getting opportunities.
Well, they're already going.
And
There's 6
there'll
origin
be
groups that have
more.
just left. And I think your community's point's spot on. Like, the sport that we shall not name, but AFL. Like, let's have a look at what the Gold Coast Suns did this year. They've made finals for the first time. They won their first final, and the whole city, the whole town was fired up, right? And they were fired up all year. Like, it's there. The community can get involved. The community can be there. They want it. They love this. They love being that one town sport. They love the rivalry that they can have with the town that's an hour, or the city that's an hour away from them in terms of Brisbane. It's there. They don't do anything. They don't give a damn. Like, they'd rather go down to Dreamworld and Movie World and get their free passes and do that sort of stuff than go out and train and do it. Their facility is awesome. Like, the golf course they've got there, the mini golf, the things that the potential, and the kids' playground and the bounce and stuff, the potential they could do for community engagement just at their own facility is just fantastic. And they're doing massive renovations there, and the apartments and stuff they're doing. Like, there's opportunities. It's just so poorly managed, that organisation. And hopefully they've fixed that with a few things that they've fired and hired. But
they've made some big additions with Hene, who I think is a magnificent coach for the modern day coaching, and he'll be huge when it comes to the community. Scott Sattler as well is a massive inclusion. He'll do plenty of things for that club moving forward. So he
was there to begin with.
And then he left, and then he started on. They're actually pretty good. When you go back and look through the Titans eras, that was probably their best era, is when they had those sorts of personnel there at the club and things like that. So the final thing when it comes to, I guess, this season as a whole, I just want to go and talk about once again this whole JC and Brimson conundrum that it just feels like we've spoken about now for 3 years about the Titans, and they've now lost Kieran Foran. Weaver as well has left the building also. So it feels like they're going into another year of JC and Brimson as probably a halves pairing. Now, I think both players are phenomenal. I've said it that many times. I'm going to continue to say it. I just don't think they work together. And I don't think Brimson said it that many times throughout the year he's not a centre, so he won't go to centre. I don't know how it's going to work.
And don't forget the dude that they let go who went overseas. Don't forget him too, who played pretty bloody well when he played for the Warriors in Boyd. When Brimson played, like, it's so weird to hear that, because when he played in the centres, he was probably man of the match, right? In the 2 games, like that second half that he came on, God, he was fire, and he got that win for him, and then in the centres in that last game, and he was just fire. He was man of the match, in my opinion, probably, but like it just blows my mind that Brimson does that. Obviously, he's just a ball player. He wants the ball in his hands, but I agree with you. I don't think that combination of Campbell and Brimson works. It's 2 runners. It's 2 ball-playing runners. Campbell is growing into a team manager, a game manager. He's growing in. I think he's got the talent for it. But he has to be the guy you lock down and say, you're a 7. This is the future. Here's $800K. We've locked you down for 4 or 5 years. This is what we're doing. Right, and that's how you keep the likes of Tino. That's how you keep the likes of Beau Fermor and these players, is by saying we've got a superstar potential halfback, and this is what we do, and stay with us because we're going to build around that. So now I've got my halfback, I've got my leader in Tino, and I've got my coach. Here we go. What a good way to roll around that. But it blows my mind that Brimson is so stubborn that he's saying that this is what we want to do and go from there. And then Brimson also needs to wake up and say that he's not the fullback. Keeney's the fullback. Like, the fact is that I've also heard Brimson say that he is the fullback and wants to be the fullback. No, I'm sorry, buddy, but we saw what Keeney did in the international series last year. We saw what Keeney did last year when he came in halfway through and finished that year off. He's a freak. He's there, man. Lock that down. You've got that. The potential on that paper now is gold. But Brimson just needs to pull his head out of his ass. Tom, sorry to say it.
They must be pulling their hair out because you've had Jamal Fogarty, as you mentioned, Tanner Boyd, Toby Sexton, all in the building and all walk, like three probably pretty good suitors to partner up with Campbell. So it's not like they haven't had that.
They didn't necessarily walk.
Yeah, that
Organisation basically got rid of them all.
Yeah, and you're just like, so yeah, that is certainly something they're going to have to fix. You can't keep going down that garden path. But yeah, I complete with everything what you said, Trav. It's going to be it is going to be interesting. It's funny how Brimson's almost like Zach Lomax. It's like, mate, this is what you could be one of the best. You can be a top 2, top 3 in this position. But they just see themselves as I don't know, just wanting to be in that spine position or whatever. But yeah, similar to what Zach Lomax is. You think, mate, he'd be one of the best wingers in the world. Why are you so gun-ho and playing centre? But yeah, certainly another problem that Josh Hannah is going to have to fix. Yeah,
a massive. I think that basically sums it up from a Gold Coast Titans point of view. I'm at the point with this organisation and club that I don't want to keep giving them much airtime because they don't deserve it. And I'm sick of talking about what ifs with them and how the potential is there. And it just feels like the club in itself doesn't back up anything. So huge, and we'll talk about him obviously.
Just quickly, is Tino, is he sticking around? Or is that still up in the air?
There's talk that came out over the weekend that he's told Hannah he wants to give him a year to see what he can do with the club.
Right.
And then he'll go and see what needs to be done. So,
geez, that
apparently had a good interview.
Yeah.
Because
but again, it's all talk. Like, I think, and the thing that's where, from Tino's point of view, and don't get me started, but this is a guy that is getting into, or if not in his prime at the moment, and would just be demanding premiership. He could easily walk into plenty of these sides and probably get them to the premiership status and deliver himself 2 or 3 premierships. Why stay at the Gold Coast?
Surely someone like the Melbourne Storm would just open arms, right?
You'd think
that
so.
They would, particularly now with what's left.
Yeah,
got rid of players, but so there's cash now for them. But you know, I feel for him because he made a decision like to leave the Storm. So he's gone from winning premierships and being thereabouts to just being garbage.
Yeah.
And now he's got this in the worst contract that the sports has ever seen. But for him, it's the greatest contract. But like, yeah, he apparently had a good interview with Hannah, and Hannah sold it to him, and off you go. But I agree with what you're saying. Like, if I was Tino or if I was the club, I'd be going to Tino and saying, I want, like, put this out in the public. Like, let's start making change to our community. Let's start making change to our own players. You're the head of our snake. You're our leader, right? Probably one of the best leaders in the competition, let's be fair, because not only is he a great leader, he's a bloody good player, and he plays that position that makes that getting to come out there and say, I'm with you, let's go. But we've got 12 months to fix this garbage.
Yeah.
Right? And go from there. But they're not even recruiting. They can't recruit. Like
they're letting people go, but they haven't recruited.
That's right. No one wants to go there because why would you want to go when your captain's got the potential to leave every single year for the next 10 years? Like, or however long he's got left. They've just signed their coach. They've let all these other guys go. RCG signed for long term, and now he's given the arse. Like, why would you want to go there? They need to. They don't even know whether JC's staying and what he's doing. Brimson keeps talking the way he talks. It's
uncertain.
The big selling point for them at the moment is they need, I feel like in my eyes, a halfback or a controlling playmaker. I know we've spoken about Campbell and how good he is, and the big selling point for a halfback would have been you get to work with a prime Fafita who's been horrible now for a long time, and he's out the door, so he'll be gone. He won't be there next year. So as a halfback, you're sitting there going, okay, if I sign there, and they need a decent halfback as well. They don't need someone to just come in. They need someone to take control of this whole ship. And that's only a certain few in this game that could probably do that. The big guy that comes to mind, and it'd be so funny if it actually happened, would be DCE. Go there for 2 years and just literally get the place happening, but it obviously won't happen that way. But anyway, let's go to our player of the year and our season rating for the Gold Coast Titans. Link?
I've gone Jaden Campbell. I thought, an absolute shining light for the team. He would be a guy I could only imagine what the player market would be like if the headlines start coming out. Yeah, I'm going to test the open market. I'll be bloody excited for it. He's a good football player. He'd be a player that Titan supporters would be absolutely devastated to lose. He should remain a Gold Coast Titans fan, with his father being one of the most famous Gold Coast Titans, if not the most famous. I thought he was an absolute shining light. I'm not going to be looking forward to seeing him play for the Maroons. I think he's just going to be one of those real electric type players. The next generation, he's going to have a pretty stellar career, I think, from what we've seen pretty early. And for him to develop under all these circumstances, it's pretty miraculous, isn't it? There's not many players that go to the Gold Coast Titans and continually get better and better and better. He's one of them. So,
Yeah.
If you can only imagine if Josh Hannay is as good as we think he is, where the ceiling is on Jaden Campbell is going to be pretty scary. I've got Jaden Campbell as
What about your rating?
big fat F, mate. Yeah, no two ways about it. They just stank. Just nothing to get excited about. Nothing really. Just another forgettable season, really. Apart from a handful of players that are exciting, it needs a lot of work. A hell of a lot of work.
Trav?
I've got Tino as the player of the year. I just can't go past what he's been able to do in those circumstances. Go to Origin, come back up off Origin, play like he has. I'd say most of those wins are off the back of him and Campbell working together, so I don't mind that Campbell played, but I just think Tino's been more consistent across the year. Campbell's obviously been more high-flying, has probably done a fair bit more that's sexy, I suppose, that we like to see as NRL fans. But I've got that. And then, look, I had the Titans finishing 14th. Joel, you obviously had them at 16th, so second last, which is where they finished.
Some people just get drugs the league.
But look, as I said, it's the only thing you've called right in 2025. But
Hey, that's two things now. Two things.
so the bottom two teams on the ladder. Yeah, fair call.
Yours,
So I made a mistake, right?
He knows a loser when he sees.
He knows he knows a loser when he sees me. That's why he looks at himself in the mirror every day. Based off where I've had them and what I think in their potential with what I think of that list, it's a talent-full list. I'm giving it a big F.
Well, I've gone JC. Jaden Campbell's my player of the year. Like, with what he can do in the halves, that club's been a basket case all year to be able to be as consistent as he can. And I just remember him being so much of that guy that played right until the 80th minute this year. So I'm really impressed with what he's doing and how he's developing at that club. And I was the same as you boys. I gave it F. So let us know in the comments, Titans fans, the few of you out there, let us know how your club went. Alrighty, the St. George Illawarra Dragons. So they finished 15th this year. Points for 498. That was a season rank of 14th. Average of 20 points a game. Points against 628, which was a ranking of 14th this year as well. An average of 26 points per game conceded. Top try scorer, Terrell Sloan, 17. Played all their games. Cook, Flanagan, Gutherson and Little. Biggest win, round 6 against the Titans, 38 points to 16. And their biggest loss was round 14 versus the Dolphins, 56 points to 6 at Suncorp Stadium. Their biggest win streak was 2, which they achieved 3 times. And their worst losing streak was 4, which they achieved twice. We've had a bit of a down start so far, boys, with the two teams so far. But for a team that finished 15th, there is some question marks to talk about around the Dragons and how their season went, but I've got to say, I've actually got a fair few positives when it comes to the Dragons, Trav.
I think where they've finished on the ladder is really disappointing compared to from what I've actually seen. So statistically, it's not attacking stats is not great. Defensively, they were pretty good. They were the best team for missed tackles in the competition. So they were the least. They missed the least amount in the competition. They were second best for errors so they were able to hold the ball and force other teams to make errors. And a statistic for you. So their away record was the worst in the competition at 2-10, but 10 games within this year, they actually lost by 1 score or a field goal. You win half of that, they actually finish 8th on the ladder. It's incredible to have. That statistic is incredible. So they were thereabouts. They were off on a fire. They started really well. They beat the Storm. I think it was round 4. Gutho was just on fire. But teams then just realised what to do with Gutho and how he was playing and what he was doing. And they just double-teamed him. And once they double-teamed that, it was all over. Unfortunately... And we'll unpack this a lot more, but if you want to talk about injuries and what happened with other teams, this is a team that got absolutely smoked by injuries, and yet were able to still do the things that they did. And to lose those 10 games, like I said, you win. They only had to win half of them, and their seasons are so much different. It's one field goal, one bounce, one try, one penalty. There's a few of them that were off penalties that got called against and stuff, like that Warriors game. It's a completely different story, and the tune that we're talking about is very different.
It feels like they were a side this year that didn't really give up much at all, if at all. And I think that goes down to their star signings this year, which I think this time last year, people are probably thinking of it going, they're signing guys that are starting to get over the hill, blah, blah, blah. But I think what we all know, and I knew from a Parramatta point of view, watching him, what he does on a year-to-year basis, was Gutho, what he brought to this club would have been professionalism and that never give up attitude. He just fights. He'll just fight for the bone, and he doesn't give a shit about it. And I think what Val Holmes, Cook, and Gutho has done for this side this year, this club, has installed that. They've been key players for a number of years at either their old clubs or if they're playing Origin or whatever it was. They've just been that sort of player for a number of years now. So I just feel like they played like their signings, which normally doesn't happen that much. Like when you actually look back at signings for clubs and things like that, it's very rare you sign so many of these players and they all make an impact. They've come back now, Linc, and it looks like Flanagan's got a massive tick, especially from a recruitment point of view this year. There's a few little things that we'll talk about soon, but from a recruitment point of view so far, I think the Dragons are going, we are fully behind you, which is perfect.
Yeah, the latter position doesn't really accurately reflect. Is it from the outside looking? You go, oh, geez, that's pretty bad. You're third last. But I'm with you. They're a gritty team, not a pretty team. Like you look at the roster, they're not a sexy roster with, these X Factor type players. And yeah, more to your point, I think this is a really, really good tick in the box for Shane Flanagan. Given the adversities that he's had with injury, he's obviously cut Ben Hunt. This is the post-Ben Hunt era for the Dragons, something they haven't seen for a while. I think this is still a tick in the box. Obviously, Val Holmes was a big recruit, and obviously losing Zach Lomax as well. For them to tread water, I guess you could call it like a treading water kind of a year, but you can certainly tell Shane Flanagan has his fingerprints all over his team. It's not a team, unlike what we talked about with the Titans. You can see the effect where Flanagan, it just reeks of a Shane Flanagan type of team. Absolutely. So I certainly wouldn't be too discouraged if I was a Dragons supporter thinking, oh, you're 15th. It kind of didn't feel that way. I think they've certainly freed up a bit of cash. It's going to be very interesting to sort of see where they can go to market and whatnot, or maybe some of these exciting youngsters that they're doing. Now, look, with that being said, however, I know there's a lot of Dragon supporters that they're jumping up and down about one player in particular that Shane constantly names, and that's his son. That seems to be the headline around the Dragons in 2025. Is a lot of supporters are not happy with Kyle constantly getting the nod. So what do you boys? Where do you sit on the fence on that one?
Go on, Trav.
I think you're harsh. I think people are harsh. He was not their worst player. And to be fair, I actually think he played pretty well for a lot of it. I think people are just really harsh on him. But if his last name wasn't Flanagan, no one would have this conversation.
Yeah, I'm
literally,
with you. Yeah.
It would not be said. If his last name was not Flanagan, no one would have a conversation about their halves. At all. And I think Flanagan did a bloody good job with what he had to play against. Like, his partner was Ilias. Now, Ilias was made a bit of a scapegoat and they dropped him. But King Togia comes in and I think he does a bloody good job for a rookie.
Yep, I'm with you.
I think he did a really good job, and he had to and Flanagan had to deal with that. He had to deal with a rookie 5'8", and the way that Togia wants to play and how he played, I thought Flanagan did a good job. Then you've got the issues that he had to deal with his forward pack, like the Couchman boys, Egan, Stewart, like to deal with those injuries. Then that whole left edge gets injured in Tuapoloto, and Holmes misses the rest of the year. Like Tuapoloto's a freak. That guy's got to be a star. If he can figure out what to do with his hammies and keep them attached, he's got superstar written all over him. And obviously to deal with that, like people are so harsh. Like if you've got to look past all of those things and what Flanagan had to do, and deal with. Yet this is how he has played, and they were still like the halfback. He played halfback, right? Yeah. They lost 10 games by a score or less, and a chunk of them, more than half of that, was by a field goal. It's not the freaking halfback's fault, right? It's not his fault. It really isn't. They did a good job, and
it kind of is the halfback's fault in those situations, though, because the unfortunate thing for Kyle there is that people and Dragons fans are going to judge him off the likes of Cleary. They're going to judge him off the like of Cherry Evans, Mitchell Moses.
Put it this way: what if it was Ben Hunt running around? The Dragons have the same season. Is it going to be? Is it the same thing? Is everyone championing? We got to punt Ben Hunt. He's got to go.
That's a different situation because Ben Hunt's on big dollars. He's been a cancer. Like in terms of their culture, what he did, how he's treated them, like a love for him that he's going to win a premiership at the Broncos, but like that's different.
I think they win a few more games this year if Ben Hunt's still there at halfback. To be fair, I think he's been there and done it, the experience, and he probably would have got him over the line for a few. And I think that was but it was different. They didn't have the 3 players that we've just spoken about, which obviously was it freed up to sign these guys. But I just think, like, I'll just try and side with those that were frustrated with Kyle. My biggest point for this, and what I was frustrated about, was the fact that they had Lockie Elias absolutely killing it in reserve grade. Yes, reserve grade, I get that, but he wasn't given another chance. Like I get the fact that they didn't start where they probably should have. They relied on Gutherson way too much. But from looking at it from an outsider's point of view, and Flanagan, was he doing enough to get dropped? Maybe not. He was, and I agree, he had some really good moments where I actually thought he did some great things. But for mine, was it enough to keep Elias out of it? No.
Oh, see, that's a huge call, because I don't think Elias is that good. And if I was bringing him in, I'm bringing the other fella in and not Elias. Who'd they lose? They lost him.
Glover.
Yeah, I'm bringing him in over Elias in a heartbeat before that. Now they've lost him, they've actually lost both of them.
Did Flanagan sign Elias? Was that one of his deals?
Yes.
Yep.
It was.
Yep.
Yeah, see, one thing I do like, I do like about Shane Flanagan, he's not an indecisive coach.
He knows what he's going to do, and
Yeah, so whether it's a fact of, I'm icing this guy out, he's not a part of my plans, it is what it is. And sometimes the right decision is the hardest one to make. Yeah. And how many times have we seen it, what a lot of people can't see this season. Next season you go, it makes sense. So I'm with you. I think if Kyle's not his dad, the whole nepotism thing, I don't think people are calling anything here if with this decision as to what's happened if it wasn't a Flanagan. I think that's just locked in. I think the biggest issue that the community have, particularly the Dragons fans, is Shane's oblivious. Like the fact is that he just hasn't seen what the community have said and what their own supporters have said about him, but also he's gone in and he's over the top positively batted for his son instead of actually just calling it a spade and saying, okay, like he wasn't our worst player, but he did this wrong. Whereas Shane has gone out and actually said, like, no, he played well. No, he did this right. No, he did that. Well, no, clearly we all see that he's done a few things that he's done wrong. Call that out. If he had have called that out, I think this conversation is also a lot less. And
it probably, that's the human element of that relationship. That's father and son, which we can't get away from. And I continue to say, I think it's just met with fire. Like the Clearys are clearly killing that. But that's very few and far between. That relationship can often just go south very quickly. But I also feel like, in a way, we're having a different conversation if the likes of some of these absolute star young forwards that they've got here stay fit. Because the names I read out, majority of them, or all of them basically, end up not playing many games at all through injury and things like that. Like the Couchman brothers, Toby and Ryan, Hamish Stewart, Dylan Egan, Loco Pacifici Tonga, and Jacob Halangauhu.
Oh, geez, there's big raps on him.
There is so many, like, that's pure talent there. And we always say playmakers can only go as well as their forward packs allows them to. So in a way, you can go back and make a case for Cole and say, well, he was basically behind a defeated forward pack every week, which is Andrew Johns can't do anything there. Like we're talking really hard situations and circumstances, and like you said, the fact that teams quickly worked out Gutho pretty quickly and how important he is to this side basically didn't allow him to be as probably attacking of a threat as many fans would have liked. But like I keep saying, and it just feels like it's the case, there is so many bright sparks from this season for the Dragons. It's not all doom and gloom.
No.
And as a Dragons fan out there listening to this, I'm actually, if I was you guys, I'm pretty positive about next year and moving forward into the future, knowing those 4 or 5, 6 guys that I just read out are at the club. Majority of them are long-term already, I believe. I can't.
I just have to say, and I'll say this to the Dragons fans, and they don't want to hear this, but I'm going to say it, is one overriding factor, that story that they need to be able to listen to and understand, is they just have to be patient.
Yeah.
They really just have to be patient. You've got Atkinson coming in next year. You've got these forwards that showed some serious talent coming back from injuries. You've got Tuapoloto out on the wing. You've got Holmes sitting in a centres. You've got the other wing now. I mean, they've let Sloan go, which is just dumbfounding. 17 tries, and they just didn't want to play him. But, like, there's talent, but they just have to be patient. They're not going to win. They're probably not going to play finals next year, and they're not going to do it with the core of Cook, Gutho, and who's the other one? Let's just go with those two. Yep. They're not going to win games. They're not going to win a premiership with those guys. They're going to win a premiership when those other guys are coming through, have played more. But they need to play Cook and they need to play Gutho in those spots, because that's how they learn how to train, how to work, all the things like you said before around why they signed them. Next year, they have to play Little more. That guy is just a freak. I'm sorry to steal your thunder, because he's your love child, but like, Little's a star. He's got potential through star-studded potential to go through. That was a very poorly worded sentence by me.
You're on fire, mate.
As an educator. That's hey guy. Everyone listen to that one. But like, they have to play him. He's the one that they need to work around. He's their future hooker, and if they do that, then I think they've got. They also need to work out who's going to be the Gutho successor. A fullback is key. This league, you need to be a good fullback
I think they could probably go to market for someone like that.
Yeah, well, they're going to have to, but they need to find him, and they need to start developing. And if I was them, I'm sitting there going, I've got to, I think Gutho's a Hall of Famer. I really do. Like, the what he has done, and that's a huge call. I don't know if it is a huge call, but in my head it is. But I'd be trying to pull someone in and saying, just follow this guy, shadow him, because this is your opportunity to do it. I don't know if they can buy, unless he's an already established superstar fullback or 2B fullback. I don't know if they can just go and get someone off the market like an Iongi and do what he did at Parramatta in that team.
They've got someone already.
Who?
Sloan. And just for whatever reason, that's just not going to work. I actually feel like if Sloan goes somewhere else, he'll be that guy that the Dragons regret.
Yeah.
Because I just feel like we have seen over time different coaching and things like that. Again, similar to what we just said earlier about AKP at the Titans, Sloan clearly has his defensive issues. We all know that. And fullback, that's pretty important. But at the same time, boy, he can light up a game. 17
tries tells you.
Yeah, I don't know. Getting back to what you were saying, Trav, for Dragon supporters is don't expect short-term results with a long-term plan. Like, you hit the nail on the head with, you're probably not going to make finals next year, and you're probably going to be knocking on the door of it in 27. But you got to. I know everyone wants that, instant satisfaction. You want to be winning games and all that stuff. But there's a lot of teams that finished higher than the Dragons, and I'm not as comfortable as where they lay in the next season or two.
What a good call.
At least with the Dragons, it's a good foundation. And I don't know. I think Flanagan's done well enough to go, you know what? If he's seen something in Tyrell Sloan, to go, you know what? He's not the dude. I'm all for it, to be honest with you. I think given what we've seen from the Dragons under the Shane Flanagan era, they're a team that has the pieces together. And you're right. It sucks, but you just got to be patient, and that's a great virtue for a coach to not go. How many times have we seen teams try and buy that immediate success? Maybe overspend or get a couple of flashy players that might have the career or the back end, pay them too much to try and go from here to here in one season. The Dragons are building. I think they just stay on the path. Like the Bulldogs, they're kind of a bit like what the Bulldogs were. They're on the right path.
The difference between the Bulldogs and them is that the Bulldogs had a top-notch defense, whereas the Dragons don't have that. So they're not building around one of the best defenses in the competition. But you're right. And I actually think moving forward, they've got this year, when we were talking a team review, but this slightly touches into next year, but this year they've unearthed the fact that they've got some depth. And look, losing Elias and the Glover loss is going to be a big loss. But they've got, like, when you talk around Kintogia and Flanagan, they're bringing in Atkinson. And I think Atkinson's going to be a huge deal for them. So now you've got depth. You've got 3 guys trying to fit into 2. So now you've got guys fighting for spots. You've got Holmes coming back. You've got these guys, all this forward pack coming back, plus what they had to play with throughout the year. Like they've there's huge raps for Halangawi. I hope I said that right. But like there's massive raps on this guy. And look, I'm not a huge in-depth knowledge of the Rezzies and what happens in the 2s in the Q Cup and the New South Wales Cup and things. I don't get, but I've heard how good this guy is. So, like, if I'm hearing about it, then there's some serious talent. So, the thing is, and the best thing about the Dragons that's happened this year is that not only were they in games, they were well and truly in games. They've got depth, and depth is great because now you're fighting for position. And Flanagan, other than his own son, Flanagan is renowned for, I'll pick a guy if he's playing well, and I'll pick a guy based off talent. I'll pick a guy because of what I think we need because of what he's doing. Obviously, his son has been someone like that, but against that. But that's what Shane has been renowned for doing. So I think if the Dragons are anything in the story this year is, just be patient. You're going to go. You've got a good future.
Yep, no, I agree. Let's go on to our Player of the Year for the Dragons and our season rating. For me, I've gone Gutho. I think heart and soul of that club already within a few months. We've seen it from the preseason when he was leading, going up that bloody hill that they do.
The beach runs.
Beach runs, the dunes, everything that they were doing here was front and centre of it, leading the way like he always does. Granted, there'll be probably people that mention comments about this one, but yeah, I feel like towards the back half of the season or the last few games, he was starting to show some real wear and tear, but I also just go around and say, well, look at everything he's done so far. And there should be some younger guys there in the back line that they're starting to get embarrassed by how much he's putting his body through on a week-to-week basis. Of course, he's going to start showing signs of it. He's human. He's aging. But without Gutho, I don't think they do or achieve what they were able to this year, which, again, on paper, it doesn't look like they achieved much, but we're all sitting here saying they have achieved a hell of a lot this year as a club. So I think Gutho deserves a lot, and I think he's my Player of the Year. My season rating as well, weirdly enough, for a 15th place team, giving him a C. Giving him a C. Linc.
I'm completely with you, mate. Clint Gutson.
We're in this together.
As you said, mate, right from preseason, you're going, this dude is locked in. A genius, recruitment for the Dragons. That the right player at the right time for where they are. As you said, we could have been talking about these guys as maybe spooners. Maybe had you not had someone like Gutho doing what he's doing, and you being a Parra supporter, certainly know what he brings to a football team. And to reiterate what you were saying, I've given him a C as well for a team that finished 15th. Well and truly in games, as you said, Trav ended up beating the Melbourne Storm at one point, which is pretty incredible considering where they were at. A lot of games, a score or two, who knows? Bounce of the ball, some injuries. They could be knocking on the door in the 8, even in this current state. So certainly not a massive, huge season as far as getting W's is concerned, but geez, a lot to be excited about for the Dragons heading into the future.
I had the Dragons finishing on the bottom of the ladder in my season prediction. They finished 15th, so I wasn't too far away. Joel, you had them sitting in 13th, so you were actually pretty close too. I've got them. I've given them a D myself because I think the season's still a failure. Even with the injuries, even where they're at, a team that loses 8 games wins 8 games and loses 16th to be the 14th ranked points for and the 14th for defense, I think still has got a lot of things. I think it's still a failure, but I'm very positive and very high on what they've done. And that was built off the back of, and the reason why I went rating before the player is because this whole season's built off the back of what Gutho was done, and Gutho's my player of the year. I think that's a no-brainer. I don't think there's no one that went close. Sloan was probably their next best player. He had 17 tries, and that says something. I thought Sloan had a good year, but he's not their best player. That's a no-brainer. It was an easy choice.
Let us know in the comments what you think, Dragons fans. Let us know your player of the year and the rating that you would give your club for the 2025 season. All right, the South Sydney Rabbitohs finished 14th this year, points for 427, ranking of 16th this season, average of about 17 points a game. Points against 608. That was a ranking of 12th, an average of 25 points a game. Top try scorer, Alex Johnston, 15. Played all their games, Jai Arrow and Tallis Duncan. Their biggest win was round 25 against the Dragons, depleted Dragons 40 points to 0. And the biggest loss for round 22 against the Brisbane Broncos, 60 points to 14. Biggest win streak, 3, rounds 23 to round 25. Worst losing streak was 9, round 13 through to round 22. Absolutely horrible year or patch for them. Their year now, boys, is I feel like the big word to talk about here is the I word, which is injury. An absolutely injury-riddled year. I'm just going to quickly mention a few of these key players. So Cam Murray only played 1 game out of a possible 24. Walker, Mitchell, and Graham all only played 11 games. Aitken only played 14, and Whiten 15. Most clubs, if you're missing some of these key players, and these are all players who are crucial to this lineup, you're going basically uphill without a paddle, aren't you, Link?
Oh, what an absolutely frustrating year for Souths. This would have to be the most amount of injuries in a team in a single season, right? Have to be.
Correct.
I think it's a record, yeah.
It is.
It is?
Yep. So 31 players used all year. 275 games missed in total. 100 games more than any other club this year.
Wow.
It is historically the most games missed in NRL history.
What do we put that down to?
There's a few things.
I'll let you talk, Joel.
Look,
Like that is either someone has a voodoo doll, or there is something that's a lot of coincidences. If you know what I mean, like
this is like the third season in a row.
Yeah,
like
this is not.
This isn't just this year's been astronomical. It's been ridiculous.
Yeah,
and there has been some unlucky instances in that. There's been some just freakish accidents and which happens. But there's also some talk out there in the rugby league world. People have reached out to us, told us some information, things like that. But there's also some staff in that there that have been there for a while now, basically throughout this whole 3 years of injuries that are still there now. And by all reports, from what we're hearing, there's some question marks about tactics, training methods, things like that. So I think there's a bit of both. I'm not going to go all in and just blame the staff. I do think there's some freakish things that have happened, and it is an unfortunate year, but I don't think the Bunnies have helped themselves out at all with maybe managing some of this sort of thing.
Well,
there was a hell of a lot in training.
Not.
Like, I feel like there was so much in training which we don't hear from at all. Like, very rarely do we get one in a season where it's a freak training accident where for South it feels like we had like 4 or 5.
Oh, to be fair, I actually feel like we had heaps
Probably
across
more.
the whole entire NRL. It was the most training injuries I've seen in a long time. But,
but serious
for the
ones,
South,
like
for the Souths, it was insane. Like, I mean, 31 players used, and to be 100 games missed more than anyone else, it's incredible.
Huge.
When teams are only playing 24 games.
Yeah.
Like to deal with that is just incredible, and like I said, like Joel and I was reached out to by somebody who's worked closely with some of the people that have, there's a bit of a rumour mill and a bit of a reputation out there for a couple of these people about what they're doing and how they're managing it and what what's going out. It's not Wayne Bennett. That's not on Wayne Bennett either, by the way. He didn't hire these people. So, but yeah,
No.
it's incredible.
So far, he's kept him on, though, which will be interesting to see what happens throughout the
Great
off-season at the moment. Yes, we can talk about that. They've used 31 players this year as well. That is ridiculous. And one of those players which they had to use reluctantly was a guy called Lewis Dodd, which was a debacle.
Didn't
He is
even
now
use him, did they?
a couple of games, and most of it was off the bench and things like that. Now he has left the club. They've granted him a release, which they would have been more than happy to do. But he was rumoured to be on $650K for this year from a guy who was playing reserve grade in the Super League. I can't stress that enough. Was playing reserve grade in the Super League. To rock up on $650K has been an absolute debacle. Now, we can talk about a lot to do with this year and the injuries and that we've already spoken about, but I also feel like it's only fair on us to back up some of the South Sydney fans that are very, very frustrated and put a bit on the management here, because they've made some stupid decisions over a space of time now where this is like the icing on the cake. Signing Lewis Dodd for $650K, he hasn't even lasted the full year.
He's got to either have, as you said, it's really, really, really bad management, which I certainly think it is, or he has the best player agent in the world. Or it's both. You know what I mean? It might be a little bit of A, a little bit of B. Yeah. And aren't they still trying to no one's put their hand up and go, it was actually this guy. It's everyone's sort of,
which is stupid in
everyone's
itself.
sort of pointing elsewhere, or no one's really acknowledging it. So, that one will go down as one of the... Yeah, I think in 10 years' time we'll be talking about it.
I want someone to make that into a Netflix series.
Yeah.
Seriously. Like, that story is going to be, I think, would be hilarious.
Yeah, it would probably
Remember the social media post they put out at the start of the year, and Wayne came up to him and goes, "Sorry, who are you?" type thing. And they, at the time, everyone thought it was funny, but now we look back at it, we're thinking, hang on, maybe he legit didn't know who this bloke was, and he's going, "What are you doing in this club? We're about to train. Like, what are you doing?" And
It
sounds
has to
like
be.
most people didn't.
That's a problem. That's a problem.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
let's be honest, Wayne Bennett signed with to leave the Dolphins well before last season, right? And Dodd was announced pretty much at the end of last season that he was coming. So something happened, because we all know Wayne Bennett was working at the Rabbits. Like, we all know it.
Two jobs at once.
We knew it. And we talked about it to the nth degree last year, didn't we, Joel? About the fact that we knew what Wayne was doing, and how, and that kind of even somewhat derailed the Dolphins season last year around what he was doing. There's a problem when you've signed this guy as the coach very early on, and then you announce a $650K. Like, people probably wouldn't be worried too much if it was $250, $300. Like, $650 is like, that's Origin type money paying. You know, that you'd expect. If you're going to pay a guy like that, you're putting him on a list somewhere thereabouts to be playing Origin.
Yeah, who ratified that? Like, how does that go? Obviously, this isn't like a scenario
Past
where
your coach.
One person signs this off, and it's this has got to go through a lot of hands.
That's a monumental mess up.
Yeah, certainly a real head scratcher.
I want to know. I'd like to know how much the Rabbits have to pay.
It'd have to be
Half?
over half,
You
I
reckon?
reckon. Over half.
Do we know where he's gone?
Yeah.
Yeah, signed Super League.
Yeah, but
Super
where?
League.
Like where?
Hull, wasn't it?
Wherever he came from has happily taken him back, which I can't remember
right.
off the top of my head.
Yeah, okay.
I thought it was Hull.
Yeah, right.
Can't remember. They probably regret that if it is, because they just won the comp. So they probably don't want him back there anytime soon. But anyway, Jai Gray has been
Freak.
absolutely phenomenal this year for a team that was well beaten. And we've talked about some of the teams so far and the injuries and things like that. But for him to do what he was able to do, even with the side that he had around him, is just ridiculous. Like, if this side can get to full strength next year, and sorry to talk a little bit about next year, I feel like it's relevant for this point. He's going to have cause Wayne Bennett the biggest headache of all time, because I think everyone outside of South Sydney would say right now Jai Gray is their fullback into next year. It just seems to suit that style, what they do. But there is something with Latrell at that club which no matter what happens, they just find a way to put him at fullback to start the year. I hope for South Sydney's sake, the best make-up for them, I'd be putting Latrell at centre and I'd be putting Jai Gray at fullback because just the year that he's had, and I want to see him around more of those superstars next year, I think he'll be absolutely phenomenal.
It's so funny, if someone, Latrell Mitchell walked in and Jai Gray walks in, and just the eye test alone, you couldn't get sort of two more different type of players. But I guess, credit to Jai Gray, he knows. He's not that big physical aerial threat type player, but boy, oh boy, everything that he can control, he has controlled, and talk about a breakout season and making the most of it. Going to be very interesting. Like Latrell Mitchell, had regressed under, Demetrio. The peak of his powers when Bennett was there. Like he was sensational. So it's going to be interesting. Like Latrell Mitchell under Wayne Bennett, I think is a different beast. I think he needs that Bennett type guy. I think we've seen enough of Latrell to kind of know what kind of coach he needs in and around him. But it's the old adage, iron sharpens iron, and it's going to be exciting for South Sydney because, as you said, two very different fullbacks. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if he's got. I don't know if Jai Gray's got the mortgage on it. I love Jai Gray. I love what he brought this year, but we've all seen peak Trell is something else. So
yeah, but the game's past Trell now as a fullback. He just the effort that Latrell has to put in to be a fullback, his body just can't handle that. Like he has to put in so much more to be able to do what he does, and that's why there are the defensive deficiencies. That's why he does disappear offensively in attack at points, because he has to load himself up. I don't think it's a headache, man. I really don't, and it shouldn't be.
I feel like it strengthens South.
Absolutely. Like I really like Latrell when he played 5'8". Like he actually played pretty well even when he played in the 5'8". I'd be putting him in centres at least. But the headache, this is not a headache. The headache is keeping guys on the park. The headache, that's the headache, putting Jai Gray as their fullback. Like in the first third of the year, he was in the Dally M chat. Like he wasn't ever leading it, but he was in that chatter. He was on all the creation, all the posters, and he was in there as their fullback. He just played for the Prime Minister 11. Like
had a great game,
and he played well. Like the dude's your fullback. That's where it is. Like save Latrell's body and put him where he's naturally the best there.
He wasn't alone either. We keep talking about a game or a season for South that wasn't where it should have been by any stretch of the imagination, but players like Keon Kaloamatangi,
he has to be a middle.
Lockie Hubner and Tallis Duncan, I thought all three were absolute standouts for this game, for this side this year. And when you're, like we just spoke about some of these other star-studded packs who finished below them, i.e. the Titans, you look at the South pack and what they had for a lot of this year, these players literally were the reasons why they were in as many games as they were in. They were just phenomenal. And you're right, Trav. Keon, I believe at the start of the year he was saying that he still finds himself as an edge-back rower, lost a heap of weight to ensure he was that, things like that. But he has to be a middle now for this team. I absolutely agree. And with the likes of Hubner, Tallis Duncan, all backing him up, I think it's really bright sparks for the Bunnies and moving forward. And they owe a lot of this year to those three guys in the middle.
Oh, 100%. How good is Hubner? God, I'm such a big fan of him. He is just all pure heart, grit and determination. Yeah. He's not sexy. He's not your player. He's not your NRL lock that we all love, like your Yos and your, and Carrigan, etc. But God, I'd have him on my team. Man, I'd have him on my team. He's just a bulldozer. He just does what he's got to do. He's thereabouts. He's always making tackles. Like, oh man, no wonder Bennett pulled him up. Like he came out of nowhere. Like literally, he's just come out of nowhere. But no wonder Bennett took him from the Dolphins. Like that's such a good call. Duncan was elite this year. Elite, and I don't use that term lightly. He was fantastic. And Keon, I think the weight loss made him an even better forward. Like the fact is that he put himself into Origin and into Australian representative with what he was doing as a middle forward. I've got some funny stats for you. Those players were elite, but here's some things. So they were 16th for points for, they were 16th for tries, they were 16th for goals. They actually had the best completion percentage in the competition. They were 17th for line breaks, 17th for tackle breaks, 17th for contact meters, or post-contact meters, 17th for run meters gained. They were 17th for offloads. They were 16th for try assists, yet they won 9 games, had all of those injuries.
That just goes to show that just
bloody incredible.
That's, Wayne Bennett. It's just,
that little bit
high
of dust.
possession.
They were the worst or second worst in almost every statistic attacking-wise, yet still won those games.
Yeah.
It's just insane.
We go back to the night stuff, and like I said before, there was games where I felt like they literally just didn't put the effort in. There's so many of these games I feel like for South this year where we can't question it.
Most of that last half of the last
Bennett
third
put
of the
in,
year.
Yeah. Well, that's that. It just goes to show you, rugby league doesn't have to be a very sophisticated game. You can play very simple brand of rugby league and give yourself every bloody chance. You got it. Obviously, possession's huge, and clearly that's something Wayne Bennett's drilled into him. So absolutely ravaged. We just got to hang on to the ball. Yeah. And we can't score without it. That's basically going to be the mantra for the Rabbitohs, and credit to them. They have hung in there. Certainly didn't finish anywhere near the bottom. Given the absolute, let's be honest, had the Rabbitohs have picked up the spoon, I don't think anyone's really sitting there going,
no,
they'd be the best wooden spoon team.
But we would have this same conversation, right? It wouldn't change whether they were where they are now or whether they're on the bottom of the list. We would say the exact same thing. We'd have the same positive, same negative, and say the same stories. Isn't that such a telling story of their year?
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? It's injuries are just that cruel part of sport, isn't it? It's always going to be that what if. Because what a lot of people certainly had them top 8. I think there was a lot of pundits potentially pushing in top 4. And through absolutely no fault of their own. Well, when I say that, whether there's some stuff,
Behind the scenes.
through no fault of the player, should I say, maybe.
Literally at the start of the year, dude, I had them at 8th. You had them at 7th.
I'm human.
The day we put the post out, Cam Murray gets injured. Latrell Mitchell gets named injured. And everyone comes to us and says, do you want to change it? We're like, well, unfortunately, we'd love to, but no, we've now put it out there for everybody. Those injuries started from before the season started.
Yeah, because there's a bloody good team there.
I think we can't underestimate, when we talk about the stars in this team, the loss of Cam Murray to this side.
Right.
The whole season. Like, I feel like everyone forgets just how bloody good this guy is.
Mate, as a Blues supporter, as you know, we missed him in Origin.
Yes.
You can only imagine being a South supporter.
He was keeping Yo out of the 13 jersey. That's how good he was. He had Yo last year on the bench.
Yeah, he's absolutely incredible. I'm sure if there was a hierarchy of players for the South Sydney Rabbitohs as to who, if you had to have someone injured and not injured, Cam Murray, if he's not
top.
The bloody top one, he's not far off it.
He's top in my opinion.
And unfortunately, to have him just struck down, devastating. And just no luck. Obviously, they try to pick up Brandon Smith through the year, and same bloody curse hits him too. They just had no luck whatsoever in that regard. They're just cursed with injury. Poor old Rabbitohs.
Player of the year, Trav. Let us know your player of the year and your season rating.
I have gone a Jai, but my favourite for the year player is Jai Arrow, and how important that he had and what the year that he had to do. Yeah, okay, so a lot of what he's done this year is underrated. It's not, statistically he's not the best anywhere or anything like that, but to be able to play the amount of games that he's played, be in Origin contention, do what he's done, lock down that spot, just be that leader. I think for him, other than any other team, I'm not giving. I think Jai Gray's a very easy pick if wherever you guys go, but I've put Jai Gray down as an emerging star in this one. I made another label for this because I really wanted to give Jai Arrow some props about what type of year he had.
Yeah.
And my rating, unfortunately, I'm going to give them a D.
Okay.
And either way, they still finished 14th. They still lost a lot more than they won. Statistically, they were atrocious. They've had the injuries. That's this is not just a rating of just the way that their season's gone in terms of win-loss X's and O's. It's a rating on their entire organisation, and I think that's a problem. So I've given them a D.
I'm the same with the rating. I've given him a D as well. But my player of the year, we've spoken about him a number of times. The little general himself, Jai Gray. I thought he was absolutely sensational this year. Already given him way too many raps as it is. He deserves probably even more. But Jai Gray for mine.
Yeah, I've gone with you, mate. Jai Gray. I think if there was anything week in, week out to get excited about for the Rabbitohs, it was Jai Gray. Jai Arrow, though, is a bloody good shout. Probably a player a lot of people wouldn't recognise. Just that tough stuff through the middle. And yeah, when your team's just getting pounded with injury, for him to continually turn up and do that tough stuff through the middle is sensational. I haven't gone as hard as you guys on the player rating. I've given him a C only because of the fact I know there's one thing to have injury and to test depth, but what did you say? 31 players. That is absolutely crazy for a team to not only avoid the wooden spoon.
I think at one point they actually couldn't put a whole list together.
Yeah, wasn't there what they didn't even have an 18th man? Like, that is absolutely crazy. A lesser team, honestly, like some of the other teams that we've spoken about, had these set of circumstances happen to a range of other clubs,
they don't win a game.
Mate, you just betting would be suspended on getting the spoon. And they would just crash and burn. But props to them. I know there's a lot of criticism, and it's sort of weird. You generally don't talk about strength and conditioning and performance and stuff, but it does come into the equation. It's certainly something
when you've
that's a very, very valid point. It's usually something you don't talk about, but when it's this bad, boy oh boy, you would be hoping that, I'm sure all the Rabbitohs supporters listening going, I hope in the season review that is the first thing they look at is
it has to be.
we can't have another one of these seasons. This is absolutely crazy. So I've given him a C. In that regard.
Let us know, South Sydney fans, what you think your player of the year, and give us our season rating for your side. Alrighty, guys. The West Tigers' finishing position was 13th this year. 477 points for, which was a rank of 15th for the year. Average of just under 20 points a game. Points against 612, which was a ranking of 13th this year. And an average of 25.5 per game. Top try scorers, Sania Taruva with 11. Played all their games, Sione Fainu, Terrell May and Taruva as well. Their biggest win was round 2 against the Eels, 32 points to 6 at Combank. Biggest loss round 10 against the Storm, 64. That's right, 64 points to 0 at Amy Park. Absolute shellacking. Best win streak was 2. They achieved that 3 times, and their worst losing streak was 6, which they achieved through rounds 10 to 17. Boys, let's start and just rip the band-aid straight off this season that was, because it revolves basically around 2 absolute young stars of the game, really bright futures ahead, which they, unfortunately, for a Tigers point of view, ended up losing both of them. We can probably unpack both differently. I feel like the Talon one was probably dealt with a bit better, but that's not saying much when it comes to the Galvin issues, because that was just an absolute dog's breakfast from start to finish there. Link, start us off with, I guess, the handling of the biggest thing for me that I keep coming back with here. I know that now we look at it all, we see everything, but for mine, it's the fact that they've had 2 of the brightest young talents in their 4 walls, and they've both wanted out, which I think raises massive concern.
Well, it's not the first time we've heard that, is it?
That's the worry.
James Tedesco, your boy Mitchy Moses. It's very Tigers-like. If someone were to say, I'm not going to tell you the club, but there's 2 really promising young juniors that they've risen through the ranks and they want out of the place.
Beat West Tigers.
Yeah, exactly right. Geez, they can't get out of their own way, the poor old West Tigers. It was ugly, wasn't it? You're right. The Talon de Silva one kind of went under the radar a little bit. I guess not as a high-profile sort of a player as Lockie Galvin, but still hurts. He seems like a guy that's going to be a very, very good football player. I don't know. Look, they did probably, had this happened to the Tigers 12 or 24 months ago, I don't think it would have been handled as well. I'm not saying they did it perfectly, but I think they can say, look, it was better with Shane Richardson in the building. Certainly a distraction. We look at sort of what very similar, I guess you could say, to what the Seagulls kind of went through with Cherry Evans. There's kind of a little bit of similarities there. Big distraction. Benji, obviously the rookie coach there, having to wane through that. Jerome Luai certainly having his say about that. We all know the kind of cat Jerome Luai is. He's certainly not backwards in going forwards in that regard. He certainly sort of let everyone know how he felt on the matter, which I don't mind. I don't mind at all. I think you know what you're going to get. If you're going to get Jerome Luai, you know what you're signing up for. But yeah, certainly unwelcome distraction by the West Tigers. I guess I'll ask you, Trav, how do you handle it? How do you handle the Lockie Galvin situation if you're on those four walls at the West Tigers? What do you do?
I would have got rid of him as soon as he said he was wanted out, and I wouldn't have held fat like they did. They tried to hold him really strong, and they stuffed that up. And I get it. Like, I understand that's the NRL, but yeah.
The press release for mine was where the Tigers completely went wrong with that. They just
what was that regard?
The media.
Yeah, they basically, when the whole Lockie Galvin thing was happening, and then they released that media statement that they did afterwards, it just made them, for mine, just look amateur in a way. It just, there was no need for it. They had already won over in terms of the way the media were portraying that. They had already won over everyone. Everyone was in the Lockie Galvin camp going, yeah.
I could kind of understand that from a West Tigers point of view. If I was a supporter, like, how many times has this club been held to ransom? So many times. So I can understand from a managerial point of view, it would make sense in this context to really put a line in the sand and go, nah, we're making an example out of Lockie Galvin, and we're going to show our supporters, our sponsors, whatever, that no longer are we going to be held to ransom anymore. Rightly or wrongly, a lot of clubs wouldn't handle that way, and they don't need to. Like, let's be honest, a lot of clubs, for a long time, it's kind of like the Titans. The inmates run the asylum, so to speak, or the West Tigers. There's no secrets in that building. I swear, the moment something's said, it's printed in the paper. Nothing's kept from the public eye in that regard for the West Tigers. So, look, I'm not. Is it the perfect strategy? No, but maybe for where the West Tigers are, and maybe if I was a West Tigers supporter, I might go, you know what? No, we needed that. We needed a strong example to go, we're no longer going to tolerate this.
And I agree with that. 100% I agree with that. This is the makeup of the NRL, and this is a conversation for an old plug pub talk that we're going to do in this venue at some point. But, like, this is what the NRL is allowed. The landscape is allowed to have this, right? So I have no problems with the West Tigers saying, hang on, we've got you to the end of 26. You're staying with us. Sit here, play, and do what you got to do, because that's what we've signed you for, irrelevant of how much we've signed you for, because we signed you to this deal, and off we go. I have no problems with Galvin shopping himself out and saying, hey, at the end of 2026, I'm out. I hate that. I have no problems with it because that's the landscape, but I hate the fact that he's able to do that. Here's your contract. He shouldn't be able to do that until 12 months out. I don't like this November 1 thing. I hate this landscape, but that's another conversation. But, I would have just got... it was the way he went about it. It was what he was doing. And then when you're right, the media persona that came out from that with what the Tigers came out and said, I think was all wrong. And it was not handled well, and it was amateurish. But he needed to go. I love what Luai did. And I love what Taruva did. I love that. But you brought Luai in for a reason. You know that he's not the best 5'8" in the competition, but he's not the worst. You're bringing... You know that he's an Origin guy. And what does he get from all of that? We're coming from 4 premierships. You're getting a culture driver. Like, there's well-known people at the Panthers that said that the way that they played and their training development and all the training habits and their culture and all that was driven from him. You're getting this guy in for that culture, which is what the West Tigers need. Yeah. And that's what they've got him in for. I love that he went out in the media and spoke about that. I love the way that he handled himself on the field, and I love the way that he handled himself at training when he had the conference. And people don't like that, but that's because it's different. It's because it's 2025. It's not what people want. I love that he did that. And Luai's turned around and what I like about it is that Luai's turned around and went, no, this is our club. The club comes first. And for the first time in such a long time, someone's done that for the West Tigers. Like, no one does that for the Tigers.
It's refreshing,
And
isn't
now
it?
someone's come out, and he's not even from there, and he did it within 4 or 5 weeks of the season starting. He hadn't even been, it's not even in the blood of the Tigers yet. And that's what he did. I love that because I've got, and we'll talk about this, but he has ingrained himself more in the Tigers than what their current coach has.
Yeah, I get it. I think it's a bloody good shout, to be honest. I feel like he was more influential in 2025 than what... I've still got big question marks over Benji Marshall. Huge question marks over...
Like, I've got one thing that I'll say about that is that, and we've spoken about this before, is that, you know, when you look at a coach walking into an organisation, he's now done 2 years. He was assistant there the year before that too, and pretty much, let's be honest, he was the coach.
Yeah.
What has Benji Marshall done to that club? Like, what stand can we say? Like, what are they? Is there a structure in place in the organisation? Is there a defensive point that we can tell? Is there an attacking something? What is it that Benji Marshall has gone in, and we can definitively say Benji Marshall has stamped his authority in that club in some way?
Yeah, I'm with you.
There is not one thing. Maybe a little bit of professionalism. And there's obviously something people like because he's able to sign a few people. Like to get Taylor May. I mean, obviously having his brother there helped, but getting even Terrell May to come there was helped, and getting Luai there helped, and Taruva and Skelton and...
Is that more so him leaning on who he was?
I've
Like
got
the
no
player,
doubt.
100%.
You see a lot of players
100%.
like he's this pedestal player they grew up with. We all Benji inspired us to play like this, blah 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 blah. But
this could be also the modern day coaching as well, because when we talk about coaches like Wayne Bennett and his aura, we all know that he's just a man of his word. Like he just can, his man management style is just second to none. He just can get, like we just spoke about with South, he can get park footballers up to beat a state of origin side basically. So maybe this is Benji's style. Maybe he's actually
I can't disagree with that so much more. Like, I get what you're saying. It's actually a really good point. And I'm sorry if that comes across really poorly, but like, let's look at Andrew Webster and what he's done at the Warriors. And we can stamp points where we know Andrew Webster's gone in. He's a modern day young coach. Let's look at Serraldo. Like Serraldo did his year. He did his first year and then made some massive changes in that year. Crichton as captain, defensively the standpoint, and we look at Serraldo going, you know, you're a great coach. Like, obviously the Bulldogs is something we can talk about in that context, but he's still a bloody good coach. Like, we can see this modern day new coach. Like, have a look at Hannay hasn't even coached a freaking game in the NRL for the Gold Coast Titans, yet there's already a point where we can say he's already stamped his foot down. Let's see what happens when that comes. But we can see something. What can we see from Benji Marshall other than the fact that his actual team's pretty good, and that's what's been able to get them through?
yeah, it was that whole what was the game? They got spanked, and then the next week it was going over to Fiji for a week or something. And it's just like the optics aren't great.
Oh, yeah, that's terrible.
You know what I mean? It's like, as a supporter, I would be filthy. It's like, mate, it's not like these blokes are paid next to nothing. You know, there's only 70 of these jobs in the world.
He's learning on the go. And I partly blame the West Tigers for the plan of attack they've had with this over the last few years.
But you shouldn't have to tell your coach, mate, no, don't go on the plane over there. We've got stuff to fix. Like, if you have to have that conversation, that's red flags. You shouldn't have to tell your coach, no, you're not, mate, we just got flogged. Why are you going to... You know what I mean?
The Holiday probably he's not going to get flogged and then he clicks his fingers and says we're going to
I
Fiji.
know that, but
That's
the optics
already.
the optics are terrible.
I agree with you. I don't like that either. And mid-season, like the bye is an optimal opportunity to let the players get out there and have their rest. But you are in there fixing your X's and O's and having a look and working with your team to get things done.
Mate, there's probably 2 or 3 coaches.
And he doesn't do that over there.
2 or 3 coaches that'd be allowed to do it.
But then you've got Christian Wolf as another one that's been able able to, like, just this year has been able to step. Like, there's just Madge at the Broncos. Like, obviously he's not a new age coach, but he's been able to come into a team leaving the Tigers in his last position. And you can see that he's stood his foot down and said, here's some opportunities here. But I just, other than the fact that he's tried to make them more professional by making them wear suits and stuff, like, I don't see what Benji's done. And I think that's a real problem with the organisation, because he's very lucky he's got some stars in that team.
All I'll say in favour of Benji, and I've been a Benji critic for basically the whole time, like I just said, I don't agree with how it's all happened. I don't agree with him basically just being a walk-up start to the coaching job. I think he needed to spend time doing New South Wales Cup and things like that and actually plying his trade. But all I will say, and we've just spoken about it before, when the Lockie Galvin thing happened, we've seen the West Tigers in the past completely derail themselves with this. What I will say to this is I actually felt like they got better post that. It took him a couple of weeks to get things back on board and things like that, but he had a number of players rally behind him, made clear statements on and off the field to back the coach and show that the club's heading in the right direction. And look, the players in that, give them plenty of the raps, but at some point we've also got to sit back and say Benji obviously worked some kind of, not magic, but his coaching skill or whatever it was has helped them deal with that, and it's got them across the line. Perhaps their playing style has helped them deal with losing who was their best player over the last 18 months in Lockie Galvin. They just had that walk out the door, the absolute massive noise, a manager who most in the game just cannot deal with anymore, have just had no time for it. He's had to deal with a fair bit. The West Tigers are not an easy club to coach at all, and that's probably a lot of that's in-house as well. It's not just outside noise, it's a lot of inside, but I will give Benji, and I'm not saying anything here, he's in humongous pressure next year. He has to get this side, in my opinion, to a top 8 spot or he's gone. That's where I think it's at. But I will not just go all in on him. I think he's done somewhat good, but I think he's got a lot of pressure.
Do you mind can I challenge you?
No.
Okay, move on.
No, we can't, because we've got other things to talk about.
But this is to talk about something.
Go.
They started off really well. 5-4, 9 games in the 8. People were like, "Yep, let's buy for finals tickets." Or even Tigers fans going, "We're winning the flag."
Who was their best player in that 9 games? Lachlan Galvin.
Yeah. Then they went 3-15. So now the point is, I'm challenging to you is culturally maybe Benji did help that, but the way that they played, I don't think he deserved any credit.
Bit of a hype man more than a coach, sort of.
Could be a great assistant. Could be one of the boys
manager.
Type
Yeah,
thing.
that type. Yeah.
Look, I can kind of understand where you both come from. Like, let's be honest. Benji's come in from a team that's won 3 straight wooden spoons. He doesn't get much worse than that. Look, he has got a pretty handy team. There would be a lot of coaches that would love to have their hands on that team. We've spoken about some of the other coaches, who the Tigers finished above. Had they have had this roster, geez, it'd be bloody interesting. They'll give Shane Flanagan or someone like the keys to this kind of team, or a Christian Wolf or someone like that. I've just got so many question marks on Benji Marshall, look, I hate being pessimistic. I just can't see sustained success with Benji Marshall long term.
I agree. I do agree with that.
Maybe this is the nice stepping stone they needed. They just needed this guy to bring that magic of 2005 in, get some players in, and then kind of like what we had with Nathan Brown.
They need Madge back. I'm going to say it now. They need Madge back.
He's not leaving the Bronx.
I want to get one quick point in here away from Benji for their review. It feels like that's all we've spoken about. Just a quick question for both of you. Jerome Luai, do you reckon he's lived up to the hype so far as a signing?
Absolutely. I think the intangible stuff, as you said, you know what you're going to get with Jerome Luai. Like, you can't be surprised at how he handles himself off the football field. Brings that swagger. Look, he walks the walk. He can talk the talk. They needed someone of his, not only his talents, but just what he's experienced at Penrith. Let's be honest. The last 3 years, Jerome Luai has experienced at the Penrith Panthers is in stark contrast to what every other West Tigers player is. So you're getting a guy that's coming from the penthouse down to the shit house, so to speak, to show them this is how the other half live.
Hey, Leichhardt's a great place. Please leave him alone.
Metaphorically,
It is.
I mean.
It
Metaphorically, I mean, as far as football clubs. So, look, was he the best half in the competition? No. But I think just he's proven himself a great player. You know, in the rep arena, you know, whether it's playing for Samoa or, you know, the Blues, I think he's rises on the big occasion. We've seen it in finals football, even without his partner in crime, Cleary. I think, yeah, I would hate to have known where the Tigers would have been had Jerome not have been in the building.
Yeah.
You've already mentioned a lot about him earlier. I want to just quickly say to you, I fully agree with Warwick and what he's done off the field. The Tigers, and you can tell by some of those messages and that they were saying around the Galvin, he's had a huge effect on this club already, which I don't think anyone second-guessed he would. What I do not think he's done a good job of is actually on the field. I don't think he's had a great year. I actually think he's had one of his poorer years. I don't think he's suited halfback. He did have a few games towards the end of the year where he went back to 5'8", and I thought he had better games.
Yep.
I think he's just, for mine, an all-out 5'8". He looks up, plays what's in front of him, and away he goes. They need to work out a way now to develop a halfback who can take that pressure off Luai, because they can't go again next year and make a top 8 if they're going in with the plan of Luai as your halfback.
I agree, 100%. Jerome Luai is one of the best, if not the best, Robin to someone's Batman, which is why he was so good at Origin. It's why he was so good for the Panthers, because the Batman was Cleary in both cases, or Moses when Moses came in last year. And I'd almost say he's probably the best Robin to a Batman player in the competition, and that's because I'm going to ignore Munster and Hughes because I actually think they're both Batmans. If you get my analogy of what I'm trying to say here, he's not your ball playing. I want the ball, be creative, do what I do, and play like that. Which is what they've got. Who's the guy? I've literally gone blank on the young fella that they.
Mason?
No, the young
one of the Finus.
Yeah, that's it. Finu. That's their halfback. That's who they've got to play around.
Dewey?
I also really liked. Thank you. I also really liked the combination of Luai and Dewey, and where they went with that. But I think their future is with Finai, and where they go with him. And he was good when he played on there in the short minutes. And now they just need to give him the ropes and say, off you go, and you can play next to Luai. And I think that's where Luai will then come about. Yeah, that's when he will come up to his best, because not only is he going to culturally lead, so he's going to then also help him develop the dude to develop it as a halfback and game manage and do that.
I think their best version of Luai, which is exactly what they need.
And they get that Robin.
And I think
Luai.
Naturally the Tigers' style, we've been talking a lot about teams' identity. They've been known for so long now as like that excitement machine. Like they're not going to gritty out a 10-6 win, but no one expects the Tigers to do that. And I think Luai at his best. Luai at his best means the Tigers play probably their best brand of football as well. So I just think naturally it's a perfect fit. I think the big question for the off-season I personally would be going all out for next year. So I'd be having Dewey as my 7. I like the way that looked at the end of the year, but I do like what you're saying with the future, and I do agree. So that's a huge balancing act. What we've spoken about all podcasts so far is for Benji is that he's got a big call to make then. He's got a massive call to make when it comes to all that and who actually is your 7 moving forward. So talk to us, your player of the year and your season rating.
Player that you had to go to Terrell May. He was absolutely sensational. How on earth that man didn't get a Blues jersey, it blows my mind. Statistically was... You know, they say statistics aren't everything, but he was dominating statistically.
And people rate that because he played so many more minutes than others. So who gives a shit?
Yeah, he was sensational. Yeah. I just want to know. I'm genuinely curious as to why he wasn't picked for the Blues and why after it was only 12 weeks or something after signing an extension with the Roosters gets cut there. Mm-hmm. why both those things happened.
There's a third here, and you haven't mentioned it yet. How wasn't he in the prop of the year? How
Yeah,
wasn't
that's
he in the top two?
Yeah.
How
What is
how
going
did Fanua
on?
Blake have a better year than Terrell May?
Yeah, it is
Oh god, we could go on
yeah,
about that for a long time.
astounding. But he was a guy. I think certainly when I heard the news, I think, okay, what have the Roosters found out? Because they generally don't get these wrong. You know, the Roosters, if they're cutting blokes, there's usually something going on. I thought, this reeks of, okay, this guy's got some attitude problems or something's going on there. West Tigers are picking up the scraps of someone else, a discarded player, but boy, oh boy, geez, they nailed it. I would love to have Terrell May at the Knights. And yeah, how he would have been the first Blues player I picked at that point in time. He was absolutely sensational. So I couldn't go past Terrell May.
What about your rating?
I've given them a C. Look, I think from where they've come from, I think it's important to look at where that they have come from, the adversity that they did go through. Look, did they handle it the best? Probably not. Would they handled certainly a lot of situations this year better than previous years for the West Tigers. I know that's not a real high bar, but look, I don't think it was a complete and utter failure. They've got some really nice pieces there. It's certainly something that the West Tigers in their history have never lacked. They've always had a plethora of talent. It's just keeping them happy and in the building and developing them into a really good team. So I've given them a C.
Trav?
An easy call, Terrell May. I don't even think anyone compares to that. That's probably the easiest player of the year, maybe other than the Roosters' potential for any team in the competition. And then I'll just quickly talk. I'm gonna give the Tigers a really easy C. It's a pass mark, and the reason being is, I don't think it's based off coaching. I think this list has been able to do what they've done off the back of Jerome Luai. Taruva, Toa, Skelton have locked down edges, and I love that. Buller is an emerging fullback superstar. Or superstar, maybe star, not superstar. The Whānau brothers, Latu, Samuel Asioni, is an awesome ability to be able to build around. There's such huge hope on Tristan Hope as their hooker, which is why they were okay for TDS to leave. So I think that's good. And then they've got massive raps on this Macassini fella. So that this list has done a really good job this year for where they've had. We have to remember 3 wooden spoons. And if I'm going to ride the coach as well as much as they have, they won 9 games and lost 15. They've done pretty well. So I'm giving them a pass.
Yeah, from a side that was wooden spooners last year and been down the doldrums for some time, I've given them a C as well. And no-brainer, player of the year is Terrell May as well. West Tigers fans, let us know your player of the year in the comments section and your season rating for the West Tigers. Alrighty, the North Queensland Cowboys. So they finished 12th. How? I don't know. Points for 538. Season rank of 9th, average 22 points a game. Points against 684, which was a season rank of second last, 16th. Average of 28.5. Top try scorer, Jackson Purdue with 14. Played all their 24 games, Drinkwater and Jackson Purdue. Their biggest win, round 24 against the Knights, 38 points to 4. Their biggest loss, round 15 against the Dolphins, 58 points to 4. Massive. Best win streak was 4 between the rounds of 4 to 8, and their worst losing streak was 3, which they actually achieved 3 times throughout the year. So not too good to be sitting on those losing streaks, which we've seen from them. Boys, the Cowboys for mine are such a frustrating team most years, it feels like, but this year in particular, because we look there, their defence, it's the elephant in the room, I feel like, when it comes to this side. We all know they can attack. We all know they can score some points, but their defence is always what impacts them the most. And again, this year, it's happened 28.5 points a game. I don't get it, Trav.
Deja vu.
for the
Deja
fourth
vu.
time in a row.
It's the
is
same
it?
old story. Can score but can't defend, eh? Is that 4 years in a row, as you just said? Like, not only that, they were the 6th worst team in the competition for missed tackles. They were 2nd worst for errors. Not that's defensive, but 2nd worst for errors, and 2nd worst for handling errors. No wonder your defense is so bad when you're doing things like when you're causing errors like that. But look, to me, again, and we said this exact same point last year. Defense is heart and grit, and there's probably only one player on that team that I think has heart and grit on defense, and he's probably one of the best in the competition, and that's their halfback. Now, that's telling you something. When your halfback's your best defensive player, or maybe not your best defensive player, but actually plays with some heart, that's a problem. And this just comes down to, I think it's just a really poor coach.
Obviously, I'm no head coach, but I would imagine if I was going to have a headache at a football team, would I rather coach a team that's struggling in attack but pretty stoic defensively, or would I want a team that can pile on points, but boy oh boy, they hate defending? I'm probably going to want the team that can defend its backside off, right? And this team just screams of it, and yeah, I don't know how they fix it. I don't know if it's they've got a good roster. No, there's no one saying it's a bad roster. That's a bloody good team they've got. It must be the messages that are getting conveyed from assistants to head coach. Just it ain't translated. They're all not on the same page. They're not buying in. I don't know if it's the defensive systems are just if it's an issue with that but.
This isn't breaking news, though, man.
No, absolutely not.
This is not breaking news. Every year we talk about this with the Cowboys, and every year there is not a single change. No. Like it dumbfounds me. You go from 5th last year down to 12th with arguably a better team than what they had last year, and you can consistently put that down to their defensive pressure and what they've done, and how he doesn't realise. Because what lost them the game last year in the finals? They couldn't play defence. They couldn't defend. They couldn't stop.
Well, they nearly lost to us in that first round. It ended up being a shootout.
Because they couldn't defend. Because it was a shootout. They
couldn't.
They can't defend. So what do? Go and analyse tape and spend some time in the preseason. Guys, we can't defend. We can score, but we can't defend. But even then, let's look. They can't really even score. When they're 10th in the competition for scoring, and then attacking stats. They were 10th in the competition, or was it 9th in the competition for points, 10th for tries, 10th for goals, 15th for completion percentage, 11th for line breaks, 10th for tackle breaks, 15th for post-contact meters, 14th for offloads, 10th for try assists. They can't actually score either.
Well, that if I'm judging their attack and their defence, I'm going their attack's a bit better.
Of course it is. It's 10th over 16th. But
a big thing for mine at the moment is a bit of a halves headache that they've got. They had 6 different pairings this year. They finally realised that Dearden's their go-to, which I think everyone thought pre-season was the way to go. I feel like, and where they're overcomplicating things somewhat, I always think when it comes to these teams, you pick your best player, put him in his best position. The rest you start to go and sort out. You go your second best, you put him there. So for mine as the Cowboys, I put Dearden as halfback. I put Scotty Drinkwater fullback. The rest can basically unfold itself as we go and
build around that.
And we go from there. It just feels like for mine this year, they tried to go out of their way at times to do anything but what was really the simple way to go. And you said it earlier. You've said about a few teams so far is that simplicity works. Stop overcomplicating things. I just feel like the Cowboys this year have been a huge victim of, for a lot of this year, overcomplicating things.
Yeah, their own worst enemy in that regard. Yeah, no.
And same with defence then. Their structure clearly hasn't worked for so long. So what are you doing? You clearly got a defensive structure in place that either the players don't get or don't like, so they're just, who knows what they're doing there, but again, what do you...
On your point, and one of my biggest disappointments this year is how he decided that, or how Peyton decided that Clifford needed to be dropped. And I'm going to put Purdue. And his conversation was Purdue's going to play in the halves when Dearden goes to Origin, and Purdue's our future 5'8". Like, that just blows my mind. You were winning games. Like, you started with your scapegoat and Duffy, and now you've lost him. And there's huge raps on that fella at the start of the year. After 2 games, he wasn't the reason why they were losing those games and why they looked so bad. But he made a tough call and brought in Clifford, and instantly they looked better. And that combination was better. And then you change it again to go to as a third time to get to your 6th combination changes, and realize and then change that. And then when they brought him back, hallelujah, guess what? They started to play a bit better, didn't they? Like, that was the combination. That's their combination moving forward. That's not somewhere I'm playing, man. They stuffed that up major.
The headache at the moment for the Cowboys, and it's a big one, it's a guy called Jason Taumalolo. 10 games this year on a mil. You can't have a successful team if your big money man isn't on the field. It impacted their forwards. They had a really poor year in the forward pack, in my opinion. They just were never really getting any dominance through the middle. And I think not having Taumalolo, I know Tamalolo's lost a lot, but to be fair, last year, the internationals, he actually played really well. He had little moments this year where he had little stints where everyone was going, oh, hang on, this is vintage JT, he's back. But not having him and only having him for 10 games out of 24, it's always going to hurt.
Sounds like at the root of all this, it sounds like everything we spoke about, it's just like inconsistency on everything.
Poor management.
Yeah, so what's the, I'm not all over there, the coaching ranks as such. Have they chopped and changed assistants and stuff, or has it been pretty much the same?
Maloney got sacked from his...
But they had the same...
I don't think they've changed much up until now. They've just released all of their assistant coaches, I think I saw.
Well, that's not a bad move.
Well, yeah, I think they're blaming the assistant instead of actually the coach. So the coach is still standing, but his assistants are now gone.
I've been a big critic of Todd Payton for a while now. He's definitely not a friend of the podcast. It's fair to say.
How many years has he been up there now?
Oh, 4 or 5, I reckon. 5.
Because when he was at the Warriors, what year was that? And he knocked that back. That was like COVID, yeah?
Can't remember.
I think he'd be about 4 or 5 for sure.
Like long enough for him to be.
He's well established there. Like,
yeah.
He's the reason I feel like it's a common pattern now for the poor defensive structures, for the overthinking things like in the halves and in the back line and things like that. But yeah, to be honest with you boys, like, I just don't know where to go with the Cowboys this year. Just one of those years where it looked like they should have been a top 8 team. They didn't get there. It's a massive fail in my opinion. And there really isn't that much positives to talk about, because their big positive, and I feel sorry for him, is Dearden. And he's got so much pressure on his shoulders moving forward with this side, and he's a huge player for this club, and they're obviously building a lot around him. But he even didn't have, like, there was some games there where it felt like he was quite fatigued this year because of everything that he has on his shoulders, and they need to help him, but they can't help him with a guy who's on $1 million who can play 10 games a year. Where's your help going to come from?
So it's not even him. Like, you're right, but it's way beyond him now. It's Cohen Hess, it's McLean. These guys are old.
It's an aging pack.
They're in trouble, eh? Like that. And I'm looking through their list, and I'm not finding anyone really like that's able to step up and move into those. Like, Lukey's a big loss, but he's an edge rower. Like, Cotter's huge for them. But again, he didn't have a great year this year in terms of like statistics and what he does, but he did have a good year for what he is, and he's not a flashy guy, but he's all heart and grit. Like, we want to give Hubner at the Rabbits a big praise. Well, we've got to give Cotter that praise too, because that's what he does. But I would have him either on an edge or in the 13. I wouldn't have him in the prop, but they want to keep putting him in prop. I'm not... the fact that they lost Finifuaki is a massive loss for them, to the Dolphins. There was your young guy that you were going. But Taumalolo and these guys have stolen that spot from him. I mean, to be fair, I'm paying Taumalolo back then those dollars as well. Like, I'm doing it. I'm the Cowboys. He's a wrecking ball when they paid him that money. I'm always doing it. But I'm hoping he plays more than half the year, over a consistent period of time. And I think you're right. Like internationally, last year we all thought, he's got a resurgent this year. He's going to have a big year, and it hasn't happened.
It's funny though. Isn't there always been a bit of smoke though around Toddy Payton and Tom Lyle? Isn't it?
Yeah.
No, it's never coming up. There's always so it just makes you wonder. Like, you know, you got fair criticism on Tom Lyle and what he's on, but you know, is he playing for his coach? It certainly doesn't scream like if you've been inconsistent at best in the regular season, and then you go out and play rep football at the end of the year, and you get a massive uptick in performance, it would probably suggest you like, well,
I think
he's probably not. Things aren't probably too kosher in those four walls.
I think Todd Payton's guilty of having his favourites. It's very clear, and if you're not one of his favourites, then good luck type thing. Like, look at my example for all this is look at the way he handled Nanai at the start of the year. Like, he dropped him, blamed defensive things were okay, fair enough, I get that. That was around, 3 or something. You then look at, they're ranked 16th for the year. So it wasn't just on one player. For the whole year, you were poor defensively. And you dropped one player the whole year, or did you then blame your halves? They got nothing to do with your defense, sorry to say. Like, I don't know what sort of happened there. I don't know why he just picked out. Everyone knows Nanai. Nanai is an attacking masterclass. He will go up, jump up, get those balls like no other, apart from probably Katoa, can do. He's just second to none with it. But you sometimes have to wear the good and the bad. And I just feel like if you're going to come out, you're going to drop Nanai early, love it, can get around it, but you didn't back it up.
Not with other examples, but Nana came back and put himself in Origin again and played pretty well for the rest of that year.
That's right. It was that was okay, but just his follow on from that was just so poor.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, 100%. I think he's picked the wrong people to make examples of, or actually not even just the wrong enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's go to our player of the year for the Cowboys. I feel a bit bad there, Cowboys fans, but I feel like we went pretty hard on yours, but it's just one of those years that, again, who knows?
It's just frustrating, though. Yeah. It's frustrating because we can see the list and we like their players and we like the club and we like their city and stuff like that, and yet we consistently see this. Like,
and they've got a huge advantage. Where they get to play most of their games is a huge advantage.
Massive.
And they almost feel like, in a way, they should never, ever miss the top 8 because they should be winning pretty much every game at home and then throw in a couple of games away that they should be able to get done. They should never, ever be missing the top 8, in my opinion. Apart from if they have like a South injury-riddled year, they should just not ever happen. Player of the year, I've gone Tommy Dearden. I do feel for him. I think he's carrying a lot of this team. I think he showed some signs this year of a bit of fatigue in that department, but I still think he was a shining light. Drinky was a close-ish second, but Tommy Dearden for mine and my season rating was a D for the Cowboys. Trav?
I can't go past a dual player of the year. I've got Drinkwater and Dearden. They both got 20 tries combined. Sorry, not both of them. 20 tries combined from your fullback and your halfback is incredible. I just couldn't separate it. I'm gonna put it out. I'm gonna put this on a voice and have it out there that Tommy Dearden will be a future Dally M winner. I would love to be able to do futures betting on that because he will win a Dally M in his career and will go very close to, I reckon, even winning 2. But I've got those 2 down for a dual player of the year. I can't separate them. Maybe if I have to go one, I'll go Drinkwater only because he played more games than Dearden. Literally just because of that.
Rating?
I'm giving him an F. That's a fail. You can't go from 5th to 12th. That's the biggest drop in the competition. Do what they've done with that list and have anywhere near a pass mark.
I've gone Tommy Dearden. I love Tommy Dearden. The only thing that I hate about Tom Dearden is Queenslander. He is such a good football player. You saw they had it must have been an old boys event or something, and they're walking around with the microphones just asking all the old players, who's your favourite current Cowboys player? Unequivocally, it was Tommy Dearden. He's sensational. That's not a bad shout. He has Dally M written all over him. It's impressive what he does with the football, but what he does defensively is incredible. You see some of the tries, some of the efforts he makes in stopping tries now is sensational. As regards to a season rating, I've gone right down the middle of you two guys, an E. Not completely catastrophic, but pretty bloody disappointing. As you said, frustrating. There's a bloody good team there. They've got a lot of advantages going for them. Just seems like some stuff that's perhaps maybe out of the players' control in coaching or whatever it might be. They've got to sort out this off-season. If they're not going to move on from Todd Payton, maybe the assistant's got to bring a fresh point of difference in. But yeah.
Sorry to producer Rob, who have reduced to tears on this episode, just talking about his beloved Cowboys. And sorry to the fans out there. Let us know what you think, though. If you think we're wrong, let us know your player of the year and your season rating, and give us a bit about what you thought the Cowboys season, if there's things that we've potentially forgotten about. Alrighty, the Parramatta Eels finished 11th this year, 502 points for. Their ranking of 13th this year. Average was 20-ish points a game. Points against 578, which was a rank of 10th. Average was 24 points a game conceded. Josh Adokar is your top try scorer with 19. Played all 24 games. Jermaine Hopgood and Junior Parlow. Biggest win, round 27 against the Knights, 66 points to 10 at CommBank Stadium. Biggest loss was round 1 against the Storm, 56 points to 18. And then round 6 against the Raiders, 50 points to 12 at the beloved Darwin home game, which is over with. Best win streak was 3 from rounds 25 through to rounds 27. And worst losing streak was 4, which was right at the start of the year, rounds 1 to round 4. I think the Parramatta season, it is just the start and the dawn of the Jason Rolls era. As a fan myself, I've got to say, boys, I know it wasn't a finals performance, but the Rolls era has filled me with a lot of hope, and I think it's got away. It's basically almost as good of a start as you could have hoped from the position that the Eels are in.
Oh, absolutely. Your readout here. Your best win streak was at the end of the year, and your worst losing streak was start of the year. So
sums it up. Understandably
so. Bit of a slow burn, but boy, oh boy, I would love to know how long that streak would have continued. The only reason it's ended is because there was no more games. Let's be honest. Mitch Moses obviously was the big loss for you guys. Like, you look like a completely different football team when he returned. The fact that you guys did what you did with Jason Rolls in his first season, holy dooly. Yeah, plenty to get excited about. Talk about hitting the nail on the head. For a rookie coach, boy, oh boy, the bloody brass balls on the guy, I admire him. He made some tough calls, but walk the walk, talk the talk. The right decision sometimes is the hardest to make, and he made them. He could have quite easily, Dylan Brown, the much publicised huge contract signed before the ball was even kicked, and some of the decisions made around him, going, well, look, you're not a part of the future plans, we're going to go this way. Lesser coach might have gone, well, no, this guy's international, he's played at the highest level, he's played his entire career next to Mitch Moses, but no, we're going to lean away from that. I think it's just you guys must be really excited from. It feels like you haven't even taken a step back. You've got this new coach, and it's just, you're going to hit the ground running. So plenty to get excited about.
Yeah, it is exciting. I mean, we did beat the Premiers, which not all teams could do, Trav. But what were your thoughts around the Eels so far?
What a terrible attempt at a dog shot, guys.
Hard to go one.
Horrible start, and it's funny you say, Knighted, about a couple of those comments to Joel. They were 2-8 after 10. From there, 2-8.
Odds on for the spoon.
2-8 from after 10. Odds on for the spoon. It was without Mitch Moses for the most part of that. And I had Joel, and I had Jake, and I had all these Para fans sitting there telling me, oh my God, it's over. Season's done. We're in trouble, blah, 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 blah. And I was the one, the Storm fan, was the one that was sitting there trying to curb them and say, well, what else did you expect? Like, this is what it is. What's wrong with this? Like, you can see what Riles is doing. You don't have Moses. Iongi is being a superstar in the making in the back line. Like, this was what you needed. You need this to happen. Like, you were all craving this. You wanted to clear out. You wanted it. And then there was the Dare to Dream finals on the cards towards the end. There was a part about 3/4 of the way through the season, Joel and I jumped on a podcast and I said, mathematically, Parra can actually make the finals. And Joel laughed at me. I'm like, well, but mathematically, you can still actually make the finals. So there was a dare to dream position. The way they ended, as you said, is just enormous. 5 of 7 to end the year. They beat the Broncos, the Roosters, and the Wars.
That's
all
crazy.
finals teams, right? 6 of their 10 wins have all been with Moses playing. So the only problem I've got with this is there's such massive reliance on one guy who's actually just about to turn 32. So he's not young. And I think that's a problem, but it's not at the same time. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Mate, the glory years of the Newcastle Knights, we were always hammered. Yeah, when Andrew Johns would unfortunately be injured, our chances of winning would plummet. But you know what? When you got a guy that's that talented, I love Mitch Moses. I've got receipts going back years. You know, I remember people coming out when he was getting the $1 million contract saying, this guy, he's a bum, he's definitely not worth that. I love Mitch Moses. I see so much comparisons. There's not a player in the league closer to Andrew Johns than Mitch Moses. And I've watched a lot of bloody Andrew Johns. I love everything he's about. Mitch, super competitive guy, sneaky fast. People don't realise how fast he is. Ball playing, kicking game, the rest of it. Absolutely love that he feeds players for fucking up. Mate, that just does things to a man. You know, that talented silver stuff, just demanding excellence on the football field. I will go on record to say the Parramatta Eels in 2025 were the best team not to play finals football. I think some of the names you read out that they beat, you guys sneaking to the 8, you're doing some damage. I think you guys were just you know, new coach coming in, slow burn, whatever. Your chief playmaker, your main guy was out for extended period. And Mitchie played an extra 2, 3, 4 games. I think you're in, and I think you do some bloody damage. I think Jason Rolls had you guys, like as I said there, the only reason that win streak ended was because there was no more bloody games to play. Who knows how far you could have gone. You guys were playing some bloody good football. I know you absolutely pounded us in the core of the earth, and you should have, but you did what you were expected to do. Yeah, it's just a shame that the season ended for you guys. I think you guys would love to have extended the season a month or more to see some more Jason Rolls Parramatta football.
The Mitchell Moses loss at the start of the year really hurt. I think because of the big decisions that were made in the preseason and what we came into, the players were still learning the Jason Rolls way, the vision. Maybe not all of them had got on board by that time. It took them a while to really get into it. I feel like if that happened again next year, which touch wood it doesn't, we'd probably be better off in a way for it, and I think all the players would be much more on board. So I'd be interested to see what happens next time, because inevitably it'll happen. Moses will get injured at some point. It's just what has happened. But you do make a good point, Link, is that it sort of comes with the territory, because I'd hate to be versing him. It's one of those players where you just have to have him on your books, and you wear the fact that he'll probably miss 6 to 9 games a year, but it's just what happens. And you just hope that at the right time of the year when you need the wins, he's there on the football field.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it sort of just comes with it.
I have to question it, but I've got to question him, and I've got to question this.
What are you questioning?
Moses deciding to play international and origin over and the potential for injuries and what he does. That has to be a question. I have to question that, and I've got to question Moses for that.
Well, that's a question.
That's becoming a liability.
Maybe it's an ego thing, and I don't mind that. Yeah, if it's a bit of that driven, I think that's just the makeup of a guy like Mitch Moses.
I think it's, but isn't it like, as a Parra fan, doesn't it piss you off that you're watching him play these games but not play for your team?
I was very boisterous to start the year about the fact that I thought he should have said no to any rep football this year. I thought he owed it to the club. I was, since those comments, have spoken to a few people who made it very aware to me with not just the Eels but other clubs. It's very hard for them to put that on a player because it can quickly go pear-shaped. That is something that they hold close to their hearts for whatever reasons. Most of it is for family, things like that. They want to represent all that sort of thing. So it's hard to say that to players. There's also a bit of financial rewards as well. I like to think that no players are really doing it for that. It's more what they want to do and what they want to represent. But it did piss me off, to be fair. It annoys me that we seem to be the ones that cop it and miss out on getting Moses for, instead of getting him for 13 of the games this year, we could have had him for 18 games of the year.
I think though that's what makes him a great player. You can't. He's just a super competitive guy. That is what makes Mitch Moses such an incredible football player. And I don't think you can't just turn that on and off. I think if he wants to go win Origin Series, like if he, let's say, doesn't play one, there's a chance he mightn't again. He's probably thinking, well, you know what I mean? Like, I'm getting these opportunities later in my career. I'm not like, Nathan Cleary getting an incumbent early on in the year. I just think it is what it is. It sucks. And I'm with you. We've been in this scenario with Kalen Ponga. And Kalen Ponga, to his credit at times, has admitted himself from selection, which, is admirable and everything. But in the same breath, I just think when you've got a super competitive player like that, they just want to win football games, and it's just something you can't turn off. You just got to take the good with the bad, unfortunately, with guys like Mitchy Moses.
He has put the club first in a way because he did get the clauses out of his contract at the start of the year, so he's signalled his intent to be with the club moving forward. He's got a big 12 months to come because he obviously lost his main fullback at the start of the year in Gutho. He's now lost his partner in crime with Dill Brown, and then 2 years ago, you're probably talking about the Parramatta spine being the top probably 3 or 4 in the game with what some of the talent that we had there. He now goes into next year being the main guy and even more reliance on him probably than ever before because he's surrounded now by these young stars who, for mine, need his leadership day to day. We can't afford next year to be losing him for chunks of the season, which hopefully doesn't happen. But there's a lot of young talent out in this football side that has so many fans, I guess, excited. Like you talk about players like Iongi, Joash Papali'i, then you look into the back line, you've got like Lomax had quite a really good year. Josh Adokar was absolutely fantastic.
He was.
Sean Russell, who I haven't been the biggest fan of, really proved me wrong this year and was playing some really good, consistent football. Will Penasini's just seems to get better and better. So there's plenty of positives. It's not all just about Moses for like the first time I feel like in a while, but a lot of this young talent needs to really step up. And the thing that really gets to me is that as a fan's point of view, and Trav, you asked earlier if I'm pissed off by the things, I think it's more so we're all hurt. Like it's been that long since we won a competition, and that's obviously the big elephant in the room when it comes to Parramatta, and you just think Moses would get us the best chance to do that, so we want him on the park for the most. But we're probably in our best shape we have been in a hell of a long time, where we've now got a coach who forces not just himself but the club to make some of these really big calls, which over the last few years we wouldn't have made the calls that we've made. Like we let Gutho go, Reg go. During the season we then let Cartwright, Offahengawi, Lane, Madison and Hands go. Like that's massive. And the club in the past wouldn't have made these decisions.
Yeah, I love it. I love what Riles has done. Look, there's been teething issues. That's what comes with a rookie coach. But he's one of those guys that he learns. He's learned from those mistakes, though. Like he's not just going to go and live and die by. He's going to go and live and die by the sword. I mean, is what I'm trying to say. I really like the emerging players. Like you stole some of my names and a point that I wanted to make. But Jack Williams has come out of nowhere and been a freak. Penasini, I love. He's locked himself into that centre spot. Sean Russell has been a resurgent. Katoga is, I think, an elite to be second rower. I think Kelma Tuolangi has come out of nowhere and had a really good year this year. And geez, they've got a problem with him if he can keep going. Charlie Geimer has come through.
Yeah.
Moretti came through and had big years. And then let's put it down. Now, it's not... I'm going to say this one. Oh, sorry, actually, I'll just go. What a mid-year signing in Dylan Walker. God, that was it. For whatever reason that happened, there's things that have come out for that and what we've heard. But my gosh, he was so good for them. It's not all positive. I don't like what's happened with Hopgood this year. I think he's regressed enormously.
Fair shout.
Like this is a guy that's, talent-wise, just literally purely talent. Origin, well, he has played Origin. Australia. Like the talent is there. He's had, by his standards, a really poor year.
Yeah.
I think Riles has identified that as well with Hopgood. I feel like moving forward, the best role for him is someone like a Cotter and just have him work. You don't need to have the passing in his game. He doesn't need anymore. We've got someone like Dylan Walker, who I just think is one of the best signings of the year. Like I might be biased with it, but how much he felt like he single-handedly changed the dynamic of the team as soon as he got in there. I think he was absolutely sensational.
Yep. Well, a player that certainly did not regress, and you talked about him earlier, Josh Adokar. Now, look, when you remember him, time at the Storm, a sensational player, like one of the best wingers in the comp, blowing it off the park for the New South Wales Blues. Goes down to Canterbury, was a really good signing for Canterbury. A couple of seasons there. Now, when, very well documented, whatever happened there for him to leave that club and land at Parramatta, and you thought, okay, you understand, he's a guy, he's played rep footy, his best years are well and truly behind him. He relied on his speed quite a bit, and you think he has lost a touch of pace, is what it is. But boy, talking about like a renaissance. He's played better for you guys than he ever did for the Bulldogs. He was absolutely sensational. And the pairing, the wing combo of him and Zach Lomax, is scary good. Scary good.
He's got that speed back, which is the reason he's such a
mate, he was he's recorded the quickest time in the league this season.
Apparently so. He was the top speed by the Telstra tracker.
There
Shout
you
out
go.
to you, Telstra.
So, that's really, really good signs. And it's funny because, when you're saying, Trav, about Jason Riles as a rookie coach, it just feels like he's just always been around coaching. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of funny to think, it is actually his first year, but I guess maybe because he's been mooted so many times to get jobs here or there, he's knocked them back. Or didn't he go to Union, or didn't he do something with England or something or other? It just seems to have been like the last decade he's been coaching somewhere at a high level. So, it's got to be very pleasing, mate. I know Hopgood's a player that has regressed, but all in all, geez, you've had some players step up. Iongi, just saying before, you snatched out of the Penrith system. Geez, you got a good one there, mate. There's a star in that guy. I know Gutho was a big loss, but for what you've lost with Gutho, talk about X factor with this young fella. Gonna give you some highlights, mate, for very many years.
I was going to leave him for last because I feel like he's going to be mentioned a little bit here. Your player of the year and your season rating for the Eels.
My player of the year is Junior Paulo.
Interesting.
Yeah,
you love your forwards. I like this.
Yeah, I am a big forwards person.
No, that's all right. They need a bit of love, mate. They get overlooked all the time.
He's been fantastic. He was fantastic for Para this year. Just lock that down. He's changed his career, and I think Riles is a big factor for that. I found it really hard to actually live. I've written here Junior Paulo and Jack Williams. I'm going to give it to Junior Paulo. I'm not going to give a duel on this. I think Junior Paulo was better than Williams, but I thought Williams had a fantastic year. And I think he was better than Iongi. For what he had to do and how he had to play. What's the worst part of the Parramatta Eels team? Your forwards. Not him. He was fantastic. He was very good. His offload game for you guys this year was great. He got meters. He locked that down. He was defensive, and he was a leader. He was on the way out. You guys were calling his head. Get rid of him. You wanted him gone last year. And I think you were all sitting there saying, geez, we need to make sure that we've got him again next year, which you have. But yeah, I've got him down for player of the year, and my rating is I've given him a C. It's an easy pass. It's not a B or an A because I think that's top 8 above, but this is a very easy pass.
Nice.
Link.
For me, best player, I can't go past Mitch Moses. I know the best ability is availability, but you guys are an infinitely better football team with Mitch Moses. He is just at the peak of his powers at the moment. I think even though he is going to be missing a couple of pieces, his partner in crime, Dylan Brown, thank you very much. I don't think it's going to worry him too much, mate. This guy is just... I like the fact he stepped out of the Nathan Cleary shadow. I love that for Mitchy Moses. For me, he's a better representative football player than Nathan Cleary is. I think he shines on the big stage more. And as far as a season rating, I've given you a B. I think...
Thanks, mate.
Truly, I'll stand by. I think you guys are the best team not to play finals. Some of the teams that you knocked off, and from where... The fact, this is Jason Riles' first year. If it'd been his second or third year, it'd be a bit of a disappointment. First year is incredible. First year for a coach, and Mitchy Moses missing for huge chunks of the season, and you're mathematically a chance of making finals. Insane. So, yeah, I've given you guys a B.
For me, my player of the year, Isaiah Iongi. I just think what he had to overcome in terms of the player he was stepping in for, the inspirational leader for so long. He did a fantastic job, really provided that spark that we've been missing for some time out the back. And I think just seeing that spark there out the back and how much it's helped transition our attack and make it look as damaging as it has been at times this year has really helped the side all over the park. And I think his defensive attitude to his game is really overlooked because he is really good young talent. He had some really big moments this year in defence as well. My season rating is a C. I do agree with what Trav sort of was saying. I think for me, I have B and A sort of in the top 8. That's a successful year in a way. I just can't quite give it to the Eels there. But the positive is we did beat the Premiers, which again isn't for everyone. I'll just say that right now. But Parramatta fans, let us know in the comments who your player of the year was and your season rating. All right, the Manly Sea Eagles. So finishing position was 10th, 555 points for, season rank of 8th, average of 23 points per game. Points against, 534, season rank of 9th, and average of 22 points a game. Top try scorer was Mr. Tolu Kula, 17 tries. Played all their games was Brooks, Bullymore, and Jazz Tavanga. Biggest win, round 1 against the Cowboys. Started with a Perla, 42 points to 12. Biggest loss, round 21 against the Bulldogs, 42 points to 4. Best winning streak was 3, which they achieved twice, and their worst losing streak was 4 games, which was achieved between round 21 to 24. They were really key ones because that was when they were in the fight for the 8, and it's sort of by that time they basically signed their own wish and failed to make the 8, which was unfortunate for them. But boys, I feel like we can't talk about Manly Sea Eagles and their season review without mentioning DCE and how that all unfolded. We've been fairly critical so far of certain points in the year for certain teams and how they dealt with things. I think this was the biggest one of the year. This was the club captain, the guy that's been there his whole career. Went on national TV to then announce he was leaving the club without even telling his teammates at the time or the club. I think it was handled absolutely piss poor, so unprofessional, it wasn't funny. Then for the club management to go on and just double down on the stupidity of this whole thing, to go on to Fox Sports of NRL 360, announce that they're going to give him a contract live on air when nothing's even been spoken about. That was the dumbest move, possibly overtook DCE. Absolute shit show. Shit show. Trav.
Is that all you've got? I'm ready for you to just really ride in here.
Well, I just...
Tell us how you really feel, mate.
Okay, look.
Don't hold back.
I just... For mine, and if... I hate Manly. I absolutely hate Manly.
Amen.
But one thing was, I actually felt for their fans in this situation because this was a player going and basically just being as self-absorbed as he possibly could, going on national TV to announce he's leaving the club that he apparently loves with all his heart. How do you love it with all your heart when you've done it this way? When have we ever seen another player go this way about it? No one, because we know how shitty it is. Yet here DCE is doing it.
For a team sport, if you think, fair enough, if it's only you and it's going to affect you alone.
Like a golfer, fair enough.
Yeah, but geez, all the other boys, I imagine, would be pretty filthy at how it's just weird, like genuine soap opera, right?
Oh.
Like literally unfolding before our very eyes. And the weird thing is, it's not like there was a clear answer of like, oh, this is what's going to happen. Like to this day of recording, like there still hasn't even been anything concrete of. Has he actually come out and saying he's going around again or what? Like
he hasn't even said that. There's still talk that he could be retiring, but I feel like if he was retiring, he would have said that by now.
Yeah.
Like, there's no point to leave that hanging.
It's so weird.
It's just been stupid, the whole thing. The whole way, even the Roosters now, like, how the whole thing is just gone about the whole year and it's just carried throughout the year.
What happened though with Manly? Remind me again. Why was he miffed? Like, what were the steps that led to this? Was was it the negotiations or something? And
I think there's talk about the management, and that can be the second part of this. And the communication hasn't quite been there, or they didn't offer him what they originally did, or something like that. That was apparently started back in the middle of like last year, basically.
What,
And
just
it's
lowballed
continued
him
to
or
go,
something?
yeah, and go and go and go. And then he's decided basically F you and gone about it this way. And I just can't, even to this day, I just cannot wrap my head around what transpired here. I actually I'm gobsmacked at if there's even a single Manly fan now who can even give DCE the time of day, because you literally shat on your season from about, what was this? When did this happen? Around 3 or something?
crazy.
It's round 3, yeah.
Talk about Netflix series. Maybe the Lewis Dodd one. Maybe we get a DCE in Galvin. Hey, biopics.
You picked them at 4th, Joel. I picked them 5th. Very, very high on them. Very high on them this year. I'm not as harsh on DCE as you two are, particularly you, Joel. This is the landscape of the NRL. Now, no, we don't have captains calling it round 3 that I'm out at the end of this year. This will be my last year. But we do have them announcing retirements and stuff like that. We do have them saying we're going to leave, or at the end of next year, or whatever. This is what the NRL wants, right? This is how it is, right? The players want to be able to have this freedom to do this sort of stuff. It's not captains that do it in round 3 after I think they won. But, like, yeah, I'm not as harsh. This is what it is. To me, I want to turn around and go, if this is... it just blows my mind that this is the type of thing that derails a season. Like, for me, I'm looking at the other players going, hang on a second, you all can do the same things. Like, you're not the captain, I get it, but you can all leave and announce when you can, when it comes to your contract time. It's the way it is. Grow up. You're professionals, right? You're not grade 3 kids at school arguing about whether you got touched in touch footy on the oval at playtime, right? You're professional, highly paid athletes that you do this as a full-time job. You know your EBA agreement. You know your contracts. You know how it works. Deal with this shit. Like, you've just got to be able to. I actually have a problem with the fact that this is even used as an excuse. If this is the excuse for derailing a team, you've got way bigger problem.
Yeah, that's a fair shout. I think it's just because it was just so, like, we've never seen it before. It was just such a...
But what's wrong with him saying, I'm not playing with... Like, Manly have not offered me the contract that I want. I'm going to say, it's time
I guess
for
it's
me
the
to
extra,
go.
it's the extra spotlight. But he knows, like, he's the oldest player in the league. He knows rugby league football.
Yeah, 100%.
At the high, he knows what he's doing. It's not a coincidence.
Hindsight is that he's probably not going to make that decision. If it goes back to round 3 again and the decision comes up, he's not going to go and do it.
I don't think, though. I think he knew. Like, if he's a young guy, Lockie Galvin.
He's smug.
You look at
I'll
Lockie
call
Galvin.
him out. He's smug.
Lockie Galvin, young, might have got bad advice. Lockie Galvin in 10 years' time might be interviewing and go, you know what? I was young. I had poor advice. Cherry Evans, there is no player older in the league. Like, you can't see that. He knows if I want a maximum effect, I'm going to go on TV, just absolute theatre, and do this and make my... Like, let's be honest. Actions speak louder than words. And his actions were, I want to make my club look like absolute idiots on TV.
Yeah.
That was... And you think, well, why? Why would you want to do that? And again, if it wasn't a team sport, fair enough. But when it is going to affect players, and we'll get to Anthony Seibold in a bit, I just think it was just, an absolute tidal wave that hit the club that they just weren't prepared for.
He hasn't had a smooth contract negotiation yet in his career. Every time he's gone to sort his contract out, there's been noise.
Yeah,
It's
the whole Titans thing.
It's him, and I just don't buy it. Whether it's a piss poor excuse or not, it's just the way it looks, and the fact that we continue to go back to the fact that no other player has done this shows to me, and it sits with me, not well at all. Like, it's a professionally run, and it's the captain of your club. It's deplorable, absolutely deplorable. And then, because in my eyes, if this was another guy who wasn't this sort of figure in a club, after doing what he's done, he's probably marched out the door the next day. Like, it felt like he almost knew the position he had of power at Manly, used it to his advantage, basically had the club hands behind their back, and basically just laughed at him in their face, plus laughed at the fans. And that doesn't sit well with me.
No,
Like,
you'd be so disappointed for a guy that's.
And he didn't even back it up. Like his year this year was poor.
Oh,
he didn't have a good year.
His contract value, honestly, like when that happened, what do you reckon he would have commanded?
900.
If he was in the open market at that point of time with the football he was playing,
900.
I reckon I'm with you, and I reckon every week that followed, I reckon you could knock 50k off of it. Like it was just.
He ended up. You almost get him now for true worth $450.
And this is the other perplexing part. Is like, was there something agreed to long ago that for why it hasn't been announced? When would this have happened? Nearly 6 months ago. Why it's been kept so secret? I know the Roosters thing's always there's been whispers of that, but yeah, I'm with you. I think I know it's not an excuse. They're all professional athletes and whatnot, and it's not. He didn't break any rules. Well, let's be honest. He hasn't broken any rules as such, but doesn't mean what he did. He doesn't mean what he did was right. You know what I mean? You can drink a bloody glass of beer out of a straw. It's not illegal, but it's wrong. You know what I mean?
The flow-on effect as well with this is Seabold has a very checkered past with his man management. He just fails, it feels like, every time to get a playing group up whenever it's needed. And he's failed.
I got huge red flags when it comes to Seabold. He's a guy like 2018. He won the Dally M Coach of the Year, right?
With the Rabbits.
And he was like this guy on the pedestal. We all saw what that cutout. This man's going to win us a premiership when he came to the Broncos. We all know how that imploded. I don't know. I certainly don't feel like
he didn't coach that team, but
Rabbitohs.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. There's a bit of fool's gold in that. I think in hindsight,
more than a bit of fool's gold.
We look back now.
The whole thing is fool's gold. That's that team. He didn't coach that.
Nah, that was a Madge team that he's assembled. Yeah. So I don't know. I think a lot of Manly. If you ask a lot of Manly players, is he the guy that's going to lead you back to glory?
Hell no.
Probably
He's a horrible
not.
Coach.
No, I think there's a lot of issues.
Look, I don't like talking so bluntly about it, but I look at that team and I look at the fact that I had them as a potential premiership team, and to do what they've done this year, I put a little bit of blame on DC, but I put all of this on. There's a few injuries, like you've called it, LIA, Paseka, Croker, Sipley play 12 games combined. That's almost your old forward pack. Ola only played 15 games, so Ola Kawatu, I mean. So there is little excuses that are being made there, but I put this down to just him and his just atrocious coaching habits, like and the style of play that they played, the team picking positions. You know, the mess that he had with Turbo and what he wanted to do there, the mess that he did with Hopewadi. He's got Cooler there. Like, you've got a guy, I think you've got a potential like sports car and Saab that I just don't think he's getting anything much out of. Like, I think this is on him.
You touched on, he's a big one, man. Like, if you're the coach of the Sea Eagles or in any sort of capacity within the four walls there in management, like, what are you doing with Tommy Turbo? Like, you guys had him at, 4th and 5th. They're only that if Tommy Turbo's on the field. Like, Tom Turbo's out that football team. They're a remarkably different like, Tom Turbo fit.
They are because I felt like at the start of the year, I said it as well when I did these predictions, they were in their strongest position they've ever been in when it comes to replacing Turbo. If he gets injured. They had Cooler, they had Garrick, and they had Lei Hopewadi. They've never had that great a depth at fullback ever.
But none of those guys are a Tom Turbo.
No, but all three of them would start in any team, or pretty much most NRL teams.
Are they going to win you a comp, though?
Well,
now?
Has Turbo been Turbo
Has
for
Turbo
about
won
3
a
years?
comp?
That's what I'm saying. But Tommy Turbo is a guy that would win you a comp. If he's fit, he is a guy. Like, let's be honest, those names you rattled off, or Tom Turbo, if you had to go to a grand final, which one are you picking? You're picking Tom Turbo every day of the week.
But Turbo hasn't won a grand final.
I know he hasn't, but I think that's another headache. Not only have they got the DCE headache, they've got this other one now for a completely different reason. You know, it's actually funny. Ironically, he's a guy that's willing to take less money. He would probably pay the Sea Eagles at this point in time to play for him. It feels. He's a guy. Yeah, he's a guy.
According to all the contract talks at the moment,
he's holding
not at all.
He's at the moment,
yeah.
So
No, not at all.
Oh, what's that? What's the latest there?
Oh, they originally gave him some sort of figure that he agreed to. They then went back to him and said, "Oh, hang on, no, we want to go down a bit more," and he wasn't too happy with that.
How much is a bit more?
I think it was like 50k or something, 50 to 100k.
It wasn't much.
So it wasn't that much, but
What's the
I think it's
initial
more
offer?
I think it was around the 850 mark, something like that.
Still,
So they wanted to go down to 750 when they went back on it, which I think Manly's probably looked at his games and what he's played and the fact that he'll probably play centre more so than fullback moving forward, and probably thought that's probably what centres make or the good premium centres, and thought that was
problem
fair.
is, man, someone will pay it.
But
Someone will take a gamble.
Management stuff up there by trying to go back on him. Basically,
Yeah.
they should have just went with 750 originally, and I reckon he would have signed up and went no worries. Because I agree with you, he's Manly through and through. He was, by all reports, fuming it originally when DC did what he did. Him and his brother absolutely hated what happened. Whatever happened towards the end, because we've seen they started to get on a bit better, but. Yeah, I don't know what to say or do with Manly for the rest of this one, because it was just a really poor year. I feel like their fans got let down. We haven't even spoken about like Brooks, but for Brooks, he's just been like he's signed there. But what's he done since he's signed there? Absolutely nothing. And I was so wrapped for his signing.
He did play finals last year.
But was it off him? No, he was
no,
like
I'm not saying that. But I'm
passenger.
saying he was a part of a team getting at least
and
into
he's got
top
so
8.
much pressure on him now next year, because we've seen a Fogarty sort of not live up to the hype when it comes to the big games, unfortunately, this year for the Raiders. He's succumbed to the pressure. Turbo's not going to be on the field for all of it. We already know that, unfortunately. And Brooks is going to be Brooks. He just hasn't quite been there. So it's going to be a lot of question marks going into next year as well. But just even for this year, you mentioned earlier, like the forward pack was that weakened. And again, that's on Seabold, though. That's the way he shaped this roster. He's basically shaped them to have basically guys like Lodge and Brown and that who wouldn't make most sides. He's put him in to be starting. Like when they played, they were starting a lot. Like, I don't get it. But anyway, let's go our player of the year when it comes to Manly. I've gone for Cooler. I just thought he was freakish this year. And like what you sort of say, I almost got to the point now where I'm saying to Manly, have him as your fullback moving forward. I actually think he's so dangerous. His speed's electric. I know they're going a bit more in the Lehigh camp, but I wasn't that overly impressed with Lehigh this year whenever he played fullback. I think he still needs a bit of time. I think Cooler's the guy that they start saying, this is the guy we start shaping some things around. And the season rating, I just think it was a piss poor year for Manly. I had him top 4. I gave him a D.
Like it. I love the shout out for Cooler. I actually agree with Lehigh. I actually think Hopper is a better wing. Like, he's a good fullback and he could play full. Imagine him at the Sharks. Like, geez, the Sharks would love to have him there, but he's a better winger, which is a great positive to him. I thought Cooler was good. I've got Cooler as the player of the year. I just want to shout out Bullimore. He had a really good year. He's so underrated. He's worth every bit of that $500K that they just signed him for and re-signed him for. I thought he had a great year. I'm giving him a D. It's a fail. I'm not giving him an E or F because that's where I've gone the lower teams, but it's definitely a fail. It's not an extremely bad fail, but it's a fail. There's no pass mark here, and yeah, I'm pretty comfortable with that D.
I agree with you, Joel. I went Cooler. He's a guy, isn't it funny? Like, he's an incredible player, but I reckon if you had a printout of this bloke's face and said to the average punter, who's this bloke? I don't think many would know who he actually is. And one thing, I guess, if you had to mark sort of, their spine to their forwards that are outside backs, I think their outside backs are probably their shining light in the roster, and the fact that he's the best of that. They do have some handy players back there. And yeah, that's not a bad shout. One thing they are blessed with, it's not like they're completely who is the guy that's going to step up for Tom Turbo. They're not going to be a Tom Turbo, but this guy could develop into a really fucking good fullback.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've gone D. Like, geez, what an absolute letdown for Manly supporters. I don't think in their wildest dreams they would have seen play out what they thought was going to play out, and just the absolute derailment. I know it would have been very, very, very disappointing time for Sea Eagles fans this season. So,
I absolutely agree. Let us know, Manly fans, what you think in the comments. Who's your player of the year? And give us your season rating. And also just getting on the DCE argument, let us know your thoughts on how that unravelled. Alrighty, the Dolphins. So finished position 9th, just short of their maiden top 8 spot. Points for 721, which was the top attacking team in the competition. Average of 30 points a game against 596, which was a ranking of 11th. Average of 24 points a game. Top try scorer was the Hammer on 22. Played all their games was Averillo, Asaka, and Katoa. Their biggest win was round 15 against the Cowboys, 58 points to 4. Their biggest loss was against the Roosters, 62 points to 14. And their best win streak was 3, which they achieved twice. And their worst losing streak was 4, which happened at the start of the year, rounds 1 to 4, which is sort of the first sort of talking point because it was a tough start to the season for the Dolphins, unfortunately. Not just having to overcome Wayne Bennett, which has always just been a thing that most sides, or all sides post Wayne Bennett, has struggled with. They had to deal with the cyclone that hit Queensland, which meant their original home game had to be moved to Sydney. They weren't able to train in their facilities for the first, I think, 2 weeks of the season as well, which really hurt. Some players weren't able to get their families in time, things like that. So a fair few things weighed on them early on. They managed to overcome it down the track, but it wasn't an ideal starting point to the season, Trav.
No, unfortunately, but that's out of their control. They couldn't help it. I'm not going to hold anything against them for that. You talk around Knighted, you talk around that you think Para was the best team to not make the finals. I actually think it was a very clear Dolphins were the best team not to make the finals. Even in that last game, they were fantastic. The only issue is that then they lost Hammer in that game as well to that PCL that he's got. So, I thought the Dolphins' year was really, really underrated. We're going to probably talk positive here, but people are underrating how good that year was, and to deal with the things that they had to deal, like you said, the post-Bennett curse and all that sort of stuff. Well, they threw that, and made all the clubs that have had to fix Wayne Bennett and made them look trash compared to what they've done, and to do what they did with not only what they've had to deal with out of their control, but the amount of injuries that they've had to do. Yeah, I think it's a fantastic year.
It was attacking wise, Link. We've seen it. They're first. They did not struggle to score points one bit. And I think I do feel for them. Their injury at the end really got to them. And when we talk injuries, and we've spoken about it in the club so far, I think we also forget how much the Dolphins were impacted this year by injuries. I think the fact that they end up finishing 9th is actually a remarkable year by the Dolphins. Like the middles and the forwards that they lost. Here it is Flegler, who obviously played no games this year. Bromwich only played 2 games, which is a mix between his form and injuries. Fuller only played 4 games, which many at the start of the year had him playing fullback before his ACL at the end of last year. Daniel Saifidi, who was a fantastic signing in the end, only played 8 games. Plath, 8 games. Tommy Gilbert started the year really well for him, but then succumbed to an injury once again, 10 games. And Bostock, 13. That is some remarkable talent.
Not one of those players is like a role player or a floater.
Key.
Every single one of them would be a key starter.
And the other one I'll include in that is he didn't play the last 4 or 5 games, and it hurt him hardcore. Farnworth.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He was. You got it in your notes here. I think it was the straw that broke the camel's back. I think for them. Geez, I am so envious of this team as I look at the amount of points they scored. As a Knights supporter who struggled to score points, these guys, boy oh boy,
scored more than double you.
Absolutely, they were. The one good thing is this is the only team that couldn't beat us. We beat these blokes twice, so we got that on your fins. But yeah, isn't that crazy? Hey,
how embarrassing.
Hey,
couldn't beat the
who
Knights
couldn't
in
beat the
2025?
2025 Knights, the bloody Dolphins. But yeah, they're absolutely incredible. And you got to remember too, this is a new team, and when you get the weight of these injuries in your depth is sort of tested. And the one criticism when the Dolphins, were announced as coming into the league, I think a lot of people thought it was probably 12 months too soon. They needed that extra time. Like we sort of hammered earlier on in the show about the Titans and their lack of identity and success in that. Well, in the first few seasons of the Dolphins, boy oh boy, haven't they just immediately you know what they're about? And the post-Bennett era, Christian Wolf absolutely killing it with this team. Like, a lot of other coaches, I don't even know how they would have managed not to only continue to score this many points, but to sort of hang in there.
Yeah.
For a pretty new franchise, really is pretty incredible.
The identity is special as well because they're that excitement machine, but they're also that team now that you just can't write off. Like, there's a few games this year, like that Penrith game towards the start of the year that they beat them in. I know the Panthers weren't in the greatest form, but the way in which they did that, if I remember correctly, I think they beat the Storm at some point this year as well, I think. I can't remember. Maybe that was last year. I'm just thinking of something. But they've beaten some big teams this year. And in games where I remember going into that game, no one tipped them.
Yeah.
But they walk away with the 2 points, which...
They're very underestimated, aren't they? Yeah.
And I don't know why, because then we look at it and we go, they're a freaking good football team.
Yeah.
Like, why do we keep writing them off so much?
Well, they've developed into that, hey.
Yeah.
One of the things that they, like you're saying, 12 months too early. The other thing that people really hammered them about was that they couldn't sign anybody.
Yeah.
They couldn't sign stars.
Yep.
Yet they've got some stars. So they've just got to keep them on the park. And if they can keep them on the park, I think X's and O's for the Dolphins, locked down. They've locked that down. They're going to be an offensive powerhouse next year, easy. I think they can fix a few of their positions that they've got I think they've got an issue with Cobbo coming next year.
That's right.
With Bostock there and what they do with their edges. Avarillo had a fantastically underrated year this year, and just plugged so many gaps. Because we also have to remember that Nicarima missed a few games, and they love him, but who replaced him? Avarillo, and he did a freaking good job when he came in. They unearthed a Dally M winner and future superstar in Katoa. He's been an absolute monster this year, and what he did, and he died off at the end of the year. But that's just what a young fella does who's playing in the halves. Everything for these guys, I can only talk positives about. I think Wolf has pretty much made every decision correctly. He's been able to pull out players out of nowhere, like Oren Keeley's come through and just locked down an edge and did such a good job. Finafuiaki's come off the bench and said, I'm the future prop here. I thought Lemalelu was good. I thought, oh, God, everything in this team just... And it screams depth. It screams depth. They need to lock down what they do between Fuller and Hammer. I think Fuller is their fullback, Hammer is a centre, which creates another problem because what centre does he go to and where does he fit? You can't leave Fuller out. When Fuller came in as their fullback, they look so much better. They've got headaches, but those headaches are good headaches.
Yeah.
They're not fixing problems. They're fixing. I don't even know. I was trying to be smart with a cool statement there, but I don't think they're actually trying to fix franchise problems, organisational problems, gameplay, or anything like that. They're fixing what they can do with their team.
They're basically wanting to fix injuries, which you can't really do.
No,
that's what they're just basically praying now that they get a good run of injuries and they keep a lot of these players on the field because it would change their season single-handedly. And the other good thing, and we've spoken about management a lot so far, and rightly so, because if you're not doing well, it's a lot of it has to do with management. But I think the Dolphins' management side of things are so underratedly good. They're doing a lot of great things that don't really get spoken about, which again is a good thing. Like they're just going about their business, making what seems to be all the right plays, and it's just massive ticks. And keep remembering, this is post Wayne Bennett. This shouldn't be happening.
This here's a call for you. If the Broncos almost saved their community by winning the premiership this year because the Dolphins were on a hunt. They were on the hunt. Like the schools are not talking about the Broncos. They are now because the Broncos just won a premiership and have been in finals and doing that. But for the last 2 years, everyone has been talking about the Dolphins. Everyone up here. In the 5 schools that I've been working at the last few years and what I've done, and it's all the Dolphins. So what they are doing community-wise and how they are playing and the plays they've unearthed and that sort of stuff is just, phenomenal.
I think the only problem the Dolphins have had is injury. That's literally everything else.
And a home base.
Yeah. Apart from that, boy, they nailed it.
They're a guaranteed top 8 side this year if they didn't get those injuries.
Yeah, and it just goes to show that the NRL got it right. They were a pretty safe bet now in hindsight, looking through and go, these guys are stable, clearly know what they're doing. I know they've got that that background there with the Redcliffe Dolphins, so that it's not like they're, you know,
They're
new
very
kids-
well established.
Yeah,
Yes.
they've elevated themselves pretty bloody seamlessly, which is a great nod to them. But yeah, as you were saying before, Trey Fuller, boy oh boy, good headache to have. A bit of a late bloomer, but geez, he's much like what we're talking about with Jai Gray.
He was good on the wing in the game yesterday too.
Yeah.
He's not a winger.
He's not a
He's
winger,
not a
but he
winger.
was good.
He's not a winger. Can we? All right, let's get to the part of this podcast where it's the player of the year, because I just want to have a minute of glazing, please. I haven't done it yet, but fuck me, Isaiah Katoa. How good is this kid going to be?
Thank
And
God.
can we remember he's a kid? What is he now, 20? Has he
Yeah.
got to 20 yet?
Insane.
Just,
Yeah, I think he is.
I think, yeah, he's 20 this year, and he's got the game management almost already of the peak playmakers in our game, which is absolutely ridiculous. Because according to everything, he's not supposed to be where he is until another 10 years.
21.
That's
He isn't supposed to be doing this stuff until he's about 28, 29, 30. He worked out his game. But here he is taking a side that, like we've all just said, don't have stars. They had 8 or 9 first-grade footballers who would be in their top 17 out for a lot of this year. And he still went about and did what he did. There was games where he dismantled teams on his own. And the rest just got on the back of him.
yeah.
He's an absolute freak.
Yeah.
He's the clear for mine player of the year. And I just think he's a remarkable talent that I don't like talking about 10-year contracts, but he has to be someone that the Dolphins are wanting.
bro.
After this Tonga campaign is finished, they just need to sit down with him and go, look, we know you're going to be so high in demand, it's not funny. What do we have to do to get you to 10 years?
Yeah,
like,
I'm with you.
what do we have to do?
What is he worth, honestly, open market with 2 new clubs coming?
1.4?
Easily. And someone would probably give him that over 10 years.
I think someone would go out and give him 1.6, to be honest with you.
Mate, with these new clubs coming around, like the prices are going to inflate on these playmakers, particularly a young one.
The cap goes up as well. The cap will go up over those 10 years. But I'm the same. I don't like those 10-year signings at all. But this is a 21-year-old that's actually shown that he's probably top 3 halfback in the competition already, right? So 10 years, he's 32. Now, we're talking about Mitch Moses and what he's doing. He's 32, right? If you're getting Katoa as some sort of Mitch Moses at the end of his 10-year contract at 32, I'm pretty happy to pay 1.6 for that, if not more, because you will inflate the contract as you go up. So, 100%, absolute superstar.
We've done our glazing. Are we all in agreement that Katoa's player of the year for the Dolphins?
Unequivocally, yeah.
No.
Wow. Let's go to Trav.
No, I've got Herbie. And even though he missed the last few games, Katoa was fantastic. I'm not writing him off. I've already said that many times. But off the back of a lot of what he was able to do, and a lot of what the whole Dolphins organisation did, was off the back of Herbie. And when Herbie went down, what happened to the Dolphins? Everyone wrote them off, right? So yeah, I've got Herbie down for that, even though he missed those last games.
Give us your season rating as well.
It's an easy pass for me. I've given him a C. Again, I'm not giving anyone a B or an A unless they've, got right up there, premiership, top 8. They were one game away from the 9th, from 8. Only injuries cost them, so I'm giving them an easy pass mark as a C.
Link, what's your season rating?
I've gone a B for the Finns.
Yep.
Again, a young club. Depth was well and truly tested. Post Bennett era, just the development of some of these players that they've got. It's almost getting to the point. This time next year, when we're doing this review, if they're sitting outside the 8, I think it'll be a really disappointing year. If they get some of the injuries sorted out, because they are absolute. Like the last 2 years, they've been knocking on the door. They've narrowly missed finals last year to the hands of us, so we've got that on the Finns as well. But the last 2 seasons, they could have quite easily been a finals football team, which is bloody remarkable for a new franchise. So B for the Finns, mate.
I've locked in a B as well. I think they've got legit reasons or excuses why they failed to make the 8, which I don't think anyone else in this bottom side had. And I'll go out there now and say I actually think they're going to be borderline top 4 side next year. I'm really looking forward to the Dolphins, what they have to show of it. Let us know in the comments what you think, Dolphins fans, your player of the year and your season rating. And finally, that's wrapping everything up for us for part 1 of our season reviews for 2025. The bottom 9 edition done. Plenty of people to thank for part 1. Obviously, Trav, his 30,000 notes that he makes for everyone back at home. So thank you very much. Rob, producer, thank you for everything he's doing behind the scenes. Absolutely fantastic work. And Linc from the United guys. Yes, he's an idiot, but he's a great idiot at that.
Thanks, Bossy.
Make sure you go ahead, give him some love. He'll be all across a lot of the posts and that we do following this. But you all know where to find him by now. The
His
United
mum's dungeon.
Yeah, his mum's dungeon or on social media. He occasionally does the post from out of there. But thank you very much, mate, for being part of part 1. It's been a lot, we know, but thank you very much.
Appreciate it, boys, always.
That's it very much. Thank you. Smash that like button. Smash that subscribe button. And thank you very much to the Caxton Street Brewing Co. for hosting part 1. Guess what? They'll be back for part 2. And so will we. See you next week. Bye-bye.